Aago mẹ́sàn-án ní Nàìjíríà. Got it.
Amẹ́ríkà náà máa ń yágo tí wọ́n sẹ́yìn.
Nàìjíríà nìkan náà ni wọ́n èyí aago wọn sẹ́yìn. Wọ́n sì ṣáájú gbogbo èèyàn dáyé. Ṣùgbọ́n síbẹ̀síbẹ̀ náà.
Wọ́n ti wà lẹ́yìn.
Alàgbà Olúṣọlá Àjọlọrẹ, mo kí yín o. Àjọlọrẹ.
Okay, Àjọlọrẹ.
Ẹ dákun alàgbà bàbá ẹ bá wa pe orúkọ yín kí wọ́n má fi mọ́gàjí pe mọ́gàta kí wọ́n má fòjò pòjò kí wọ́n má fòjò pòjò ọ̀gá mi mo sì fẹ́ tú yín lẹ̀ o.
Àbí àmọ́ náà ni.
N téèyàn ọ̀bá sí mọ̀ ọ́ ṣàgbé èèyàn tí ọ̀dà.
Àbí o. Irú orúkọ tó wà ní orúkọ John Ọ̀ṣíyẹmí ni àbí kò yé mi.
Ọ̀ṣíyẹmí làwọn ń jẹ́.
But ẹ fi wá síwájú ẹni dípò ẹ̀yìn àti.
Olúṣọlá Àjọlóore ló kàn mí.
Àjọlóore.
O.
Ẹ dákun Ìjẹ̀bú kọ́ bàbá.
Ẹni tí ó jẹ́ olóore. Àjọlóore.
Orúkọ yín rẹwà o.
Orúkọ dáadáa nìyẹn. Kódà ó dàbí gba pé gbọ̀ngàn rẹ ti wá.
Wọ́n wá láti gbọ̀ngàn. Ẹ dákun ṣe bí Ìjẹ̀bú ni yín.
Yóò dáa fún ọ.
Wọ́n ní gbọ̀ngàn rẹ ti wá sà.
Ó tí o Mọ̀pá ní Kogi State mo ti wá. Àwa tí àwọn British sọ di ara àríwá ní tipátipá.
Níbo ni ní Kogi State ṣe?
Wọ́n ní Mọ̀pá.
Mọ̀pá.
Mọ̀pá ní ìlú
yìí. Ó yé mi.
Jẹ́ bóyá ti gbórúkọ ọrú àwọn èèyàn bíi Sunday Awoniyi tàbí
bàbá Professor.
Jìnnà sí Àjàṣẹ́pọ̀.
Pẹ̀lẹ́.
Àjàṣẹ́. Torí tí wọ́n bá ń kì wá nílé wa wọ́n níbi kan wá ní Tolúpọ̀ Ìyámọ̀jẹ̀.
Ìgbọ́ yín dáadáa o.
Mo ní tí wọ́n bá ń kì wá nígbà kan wọ́n á máa pè wá ní Tolúpọ̀ Ìyámọ̀jẹ̀. Mi ò wá mọ̀ bí ẹ ṣe jìnnà sí mò pàtó. Àjàṣẹ́pọ̀.
Ẹ pẹ̀lẹ́.
Ó jàre.
Ṣé Àjàṣẹ́pọ̀ ni àbí Àjàṣẹ́pọ̀?
Èmi á mọ̀ ni, n ò débẹ̀ rí. Mo kàn wọ́n pé Olúpo ni wọ́n ń pe ọba wọn. Olúpo.
Ẹ jẹ́ ń pe àwọn àlejò wa pé a ti dé o.
Alàgbà Ọ̀ṣíyẹmí, ṣé bá a ṣe kọrúkọ yín yẹn nìyẹn? OSIY. Ta ló kọ orúkọ yẹn gan-an?
Àwọn bàbá mi nípa ti Ọlọ́run.
Nínú bàbútísì mi. Dáfẹ́. OI Dáfẹ́.
Ẹ̀rín ní ẹ̀rín kò mi ò ẹ̀ má ṣe bá mi jà. Ẹ̀rín láàrin tànà ọtí. Lọ́kùnrin lóbìnrin. Ẹ̀rín láàrin tànà ọtí o. Lágbàdọmọdé. Ẹ̀rín láàrin tànà ọtí o. Ẹ̀rín ní ẹ̀rín.
Good evening.
Ẹ má ṣe bá mi jà. Ẹ̀rín láàrin tànà ọtí.
Germany.
ẹ dákun ṣé ń gbọ́ mi.
Olóòtú ta ni speaker wa lẹ́ni o.
Ṣé ẹ ń gbọ́ mi dáadáa?
Ẹ kálẹ́ o Sisi Ṣọlá ẹ kújọ́ mẹ́ta.
Ọ̀túnba Kẹ́mi Ọláògùn.
Àmì Elédùmarè, you are looking radiant o.
Ẹ ṣe wo ẹ̀yin náà lẹ́wà lẹ́yìn mi tójú fi ń gún régé o. Bí mo bá ti rí yín lẹ́yìn mi mo lè gba eégún lójú. Bí mo bá rí yín lẹ́yìn mi mo lè ta àrọ̀nì lọ́fà.
Lágbára Elédùmarè.
Bí mo bá rí yín lẹ́yìn mi èmi ẹnìkan ṣoṣo mo lè di 13.
Ẹ continue.
Ẹ ṣeun mo dúpẹ́.
Tani guest wa lẹ́ni o.
Túndé Agbẹ́lẹ́gùn ṣó wà ní sùúrù fún rẹ mi ò wá last week o.
Ninas yeah.
Okay. Nnadi Tony Nnadi.
Tony Nnadi.
Nnadi.
Bàbá Professor Adébóyè Kalẹ́sà.
Ẹ kú ìlú yìí o, ẹ kú iṣẹ́, ẹ kú ọjọ́ mẹ́ta.
Mo kí gbogbo ilé o.
Èmi náà kí gbogbo ilé o, mo kí mo tiẹ̀ wá orúkọ. Ta ló ń jẹ́ Dáfẹ́?
Dáfẹ́. Ó dàbí pé orúkọ Faransé ni.
Dáfẹ́.
Ẹ bá wa bẹ̀ wọ́n ní kó máa kọ orúkọ wọn síta kójú orúkọ wọn ti wọ́n.
Dáfẹ́ lórúkọ kò ń ṣe Dáfẹ́ ní kò ń ṣe Faransé. Ọmọ Nàìjíríà.
Ẹ jẹ́ kó máa kọ orúkọ wọn síta ma.
Yes, I'm looking now.
Ẹ dákun ẹ kọ orúkọ yín o, ẹ rí tèmi nísìnyí.
Èèyàn kan ló ń jẹ́ Túndé Apẹ́lógún, ó ṣàkọ orúkọ ẹ̀. Èèyàn ló ń jẹ́ Túndé Apẹ́lógún.
Dáfẹ́.
Àwọn àdúró de àwọn Ninas o.
Ǹjẹ́ nìkan ní family jẹ́ O.I. Daffy. O.I. Daffy. Láyé àtijọ́.
Barrister Daffy. Barrister Daffy.
Barrister Daffy nìyẹn.
Bẹ́ẹ̀ni.
Èyí tí mo sọ yìí mid-1950s ni o.
Oh, okay. No. Daffy.
No. Log out and log in again.
Ẹni yẹn ó ṣiṣẹ́ ní Western Region.
Okay.
Mo rò pé ó sign certificate primary six.
Blessed Momodu, guten Abend.
Guten Abend. Hello, Ninas. Ẹ kújọ́ mẹ́ta.
Àwa Ninas ń bẹ ń kálẹ̀ o.
Miguel de familia.
Oh, good.
Yeah, good.
Ẹ kú wájú o.
Ẹ káàbọ̀ dókítà.
Yes sir, prof.
Ẹ kú ọjọ́ mẹ́ta.
Ọjọ́ méjì pẹ̀lú. Ẹ ǹlẹ́ o.
Alàgbà bí ẹ kálẹ́ sà.
Ẹ mà kálẹ́ o. Ọ̀túnba.
Mo ní tó máa di January ẹ pè mí. Tó máa di January lágbára Elédùmarè ẹ pè mí.
Lágbára Èdùmàrè. Mi níjó di February. Ẹ ǹlẹ́ ẹ kú iṣẹ́.
Mo kí gbogbo lé o.
Ẹ káàbọ̀ o.
Yes sir.
Mr. Apẹ́lógún, à ń rí yín o.
Ẹ rí mi, ẹ kàn lórúkọ mi ni.
Your reputation precedes you, sir.
Hey, God is great o. Èmi rè o.
That's you and your handsome face.
Imagine that.
Yes.
Madam ṣe ń gbọ́ o, wọ́n ní mo handsome o.
Mi náà kí gbogbo ilé, mo kí gbogbo ìjókòó, gbogbo ẹ̀yin bàbá wa, mo kí gbogbo yín sá o.
Ẹ káàbọ̀ àti màánù.
Ó tiẹ̀ dá nígbà tẹ́mi sọ nípa ọ̀rọ̀ handsome fún yín jòní. Ẹ rò pé mọ̀ ń dánu ni. Ọ̀rọ̀ ọlọ́gbọ́n ìta ṣe tí òmùgọ̀ ní máa ń yàtọ̀.
Màá lẹ wí bẹ́ẹ̀ o.
Àmọ́ ẹ wá mọ̀ jẹ́ kí gbogbo èèyàn máa mọ̀ o. Toró léwu o. Pàápàá àwọn ọmọ lítú sọrí ayé òde òní.
Bẹ́ẹ̀ni.
Nǹkan tí Mr. Apẹ́lógún fi máa ń bojú wọn nìyẹn. Ìṣẹ̀rí wọn he has covered himself.
Wọ́n ní àgbọ́dọ̀ ṣe orí adé sílẹ̀ la ṣe ń bò ó.
Ẹ̀yin èèyàn wa bá a bá débi iṣẹ́ ṣíṣe là á ṣe o. So thank you so much. Our people are already here. I can see our special guests here already. Can you hear me, please?
Yes. We can hear you.
Okay, so we have our guest, and it's a very, very busy person. So we are not going to waste time. Today, we have our guests already, and we have important people. I thank everybody for coming. As usual, my name is Shola Yusuf. I'm the host for Yoruba Gbode, and I want to take this opportunity to welcome our special guest, barrister at law, Alagba Elder, I would say chief, because what he's doing all over the world for the situation in Nigeria is really chiefly. So, Tony Nnadi, you are welcome to another edition of Yoruba Gbode.
Thank you.
You are doing a great job.
Pleasure to be here, Mr.
So I know we don't have too much time. I'm going to briefly introduce my elders who are here, who are the members of the panel who will be talking with you today. The first person that I'm going to introduce as it comes in front of me right here is Dr. Biyi Oyefule. Dr. Biyi Oyefule is a psychiatrist. I never can call that thing very well. I don't know why. Anyway, a doctor of brain. So it's one of the pillars of Yoruba Gbode, Dr. Oyefule. Please let them know that it's you, it's nobody else.
Thank you, Olotu. My dear friend, Tony, nice to see you. Welcome on board.
Good evening, sir.
Yes.
Great pleasure, sir. Great pleasure to see you again.
Thank you for coming.
We'll both see the end of this madness.
In the name of God Most High, we will.
Amen.
We started it together a long time ago. We will see it.
Sure.
Yes, welcome on board, Tony.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
My Baba is here. As usual, the one and only one, Baba Amoye, Professor Adeniran Adeboye.
Barrister Nnadi.
Yes, sir.
Kedu Kodi?
All the matter.
Kedu Makawa Ingi?
Thank you, sir.
You are welcome to the program again. We are happy to see you, to learn from you. Where things are, we are very, very happy to share you with the rest of the world. Welcome.
Thank you, sir.
In absentia is Alagba Bankole Thomas Oyetunde.
Oh, wow.
He has to go for a Red Cross program that he does, that they call him from time to time. So he has sent his apology, is with us in spirit. Before I go further, I know we don't have time, and I'm running too. I'm going to run. I'm going to introduce the some important people. They came from Nina's secretariat. The reason why I'm going to introduce them is we've been hearing that, there's no Yoruba in Nina's, this and that, but they are here. They are representatives of they're Yoruba people. They are working very hard with Mr. Tony Nnadi and Auntie Shade Olukoya. So the first person that I'm going to introduce is Otumba Shade Olukoya. Auntie, where are you?
I'm here. Oh, good evening. Hello.
Yes.
Hello.
Okay.
Sunday.
Okay. I'm not going to be showing everybody, but I'm going to mention their name. When they want to talk, we are going to see them. I'm doing this so we can buy time because we have a lot of important things to talk about today. We have Madam Shola Salako from Nina's secretariat. Pa Dr. Olushola Ajolore. I hope I get it right.
Ajolore.
Ajolore.
Ajolore. Baba, thank you so much. We have a Reverend Dr. David Salami. We have Bishop Fred Adigun. We have a Reverend Tim Alabi. We have a Pastor Stephen Salako. And we also have Pastor Sunday Olujide. I'm very, very happy and I'm grateful that you are all here to support our chief, Tony Nnadi. We are going to go fast, like I said. We want to talk today about where we are. Ninas have been working so hard to make sure that what is supposed to happen in Nigeria happens very soon. No delay. Alàgbà Tony Nnadi, please briefly, can you tell us, just briefly as a reminder, when you started, number one, and where you are at this point? Thank you and welcome again, sir.
Thank you, and welcoming everybody. I also welcome members of my team who have had to join us from various places. There's somebody in the team, Jolore, you have a 99-year-old man in your midst. And so that would tell you.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
That's the Jolore you were talking about. And
please, can I show him to everybody just for a minute?
Thank
you, Baba. Please,
Ọlọ́run ó kó wa yọnú àwọn tí wọ́n fẹ́ kó wa lẹ́rú o.
Àmín.
Àwọn tí wọ́n wá kòtò lẹ̀ fún wa, àwọn gan-an náà wà jì sínú kòtò tí wọ́n wà.
Amen. Thank you, Baba. You are welcome. You are a pride to all Yoruba people. Thank you, Alàgbà Tony Nnadi, for that recognition. So yes, let's continue.
Yes. Where we are is that God in his infinite mercies, gave us wisdom on how to get ahead of this enemy. First, by showing us who the enemy is. Many of our people did not know, did not believe, even when they were told that there was a Fulani agenda. They used to think it was some kind of fabrication. And then they kept fighting with the wind. Because when you can't see the enemy you have to contend with, that enemy has an advantage over you because he's seeing you, you're not seeing him. So that was the first thing. And so our answer to that was the alliance, because the people working with the British that set them up as their local agent is actually the British we're dealing with here. The British set them up as their local agent by which they will enslave us and appropriate all of what you see as Nigeria as an annex to their own economy, as a slush fund. Nigeria is just one business venture to support the British economy from beginning, and it has never changed because they had this local agent that they put in charge of all our affairs. And you can see that if they had 30% control or 40% control when the British were here, they now have 95% control. And the only thing they are trying to do now is to eliminate the owners and share out the entire land amongst the Fulani from all over West Africa. They're already here. They're not coming tomorrow. They're already in. They are in Igbo land, they're in Ijo land, they're in Yoruba land. And the ones from Senegal already know what has been allotted to them. The ones from Burkina Faso, they know it's Benue. The ones from, like that, all the way to Boni, all the way to Badagry. And so that was one part of the problem. Like doctors would do, diagnosis to identify what you have to deal with. Then the question of is the alliance of all of us, the alliance of the rest of Nigeria that are in that danger, because they are the only ones. Look at our name again, Nigerian Indigenous Nationalities Alliance for Self-Determination, NINAS, meaning that the only people that are not in that alliance are the ones who are coming from outside, the ones who are not indigenous to Nigeria, because they don't have any plot of land. Yoruba land is known to the whole world. Ijaw land is known to the whole world. Igbo land is known to the whole world. And so we stand on our space and say our sovereignty belongs to us in that space. And all of us who are being, haunted by this invader population are together in that alliance. What was it that empowered this alliance in the manner that they've been able to prevail since the British left? Let's not even blame let's not look at the period when the British were still here. But why were they able to overturn the election of independence, which Awolowo, was confident he won, and then Awolowo ended up in prison? Awolowo almost, if not for the coup of January 15, he probably would not have come back from that prison, because they knew if Awolowo was there, they are not going to be able to do what they were doing. And so they struck at Awolowo right at even before the independence, because the election was in 1959. And then Awolowo ended up in prison, and the constitution of Western region got suspended. That was the point at which Yoruba sovereignty was taken and put in the pocket, because Yoruba already had education at the time ahead of other people. And so they were of a particular concern to the British at the time, because they wouldn't, if there was no containment mechanism, they probably would challenge what was coming. And so they went from the Yoruba to the Tiv, then to the Jaw. You saw the TV riots that predated the coup. You saw the Isaac Boro that declared the Niger Delta Republic. So it was a matter of just take them out one after the other until you decimate them and take the land, and it becomes a Fulani country. Ahmadu Bello did not mince words in that independence. The battle script he read out, he made out to his lieutenants at the point of independence, where he said that the new nation would be an estate of their great grandfather. So that's what we're dealing with. Why were they, in their small numbers, able to overwhelm this large number of people? We then identify the constitution as what empowered them. It is that constitution that brings Yoruba land into Nigeria. It is that constitution that took all the assets of Yoruba. It is that constitution that confiscated Yoruba sovereignty. Every other thing you will try to do to recover your land or your freedom or your sovereignty, if you left that constitution intact, you were just dancing around inside your prison compound. No matter how noisy you become, no matter where you go to fly your flag, it is that constitution that is the shackle holding you in that prison compound. And so, having identified that constitution as the mechanism by which this small invader population had prevailed, we then marked it out as our object of engagement, because that is also what defines the law and the legal environment under which you are going to be making your contention. Many things we are doing inside, many people will be wondering, why is Tony and all these people inside Nigeria doing this kind of things they are doing, and nobody has come to arrest them? The answer to that I can give you right now is that we identified the foundation upon which their law is anchored. This is not now matter for court. The foundation upon which that law by which they will accuse me of and accuse us of treason is anchored is called the Constitution, and it is our signature that sustains it. So if that Constitution is what takes our land, if that Constitution is what took our sovereignty, if that Constitution is what took our rights, why can't all of us working together say we didn't make any constitution and get the document to collapse? Every other thing they try to do, they will have to rely on the life of that document to be able to come to our space, to hold the assets they are holding, to hold the powers they are holding, to be in charge of our electricity, to be in charge of our security, to be in charge of our election. All those things are coming from inside that constitution. And so, having formed that alliance, we isolated them. They became incapacitated. Having done our onslaught against that constitution, they are the ones who now have to justify themselves because we accuse them of treason. We said we agreed to be a union on the basis of being a federation. We agreed to be a secular union. By their own acts, we are no longer a federation because they've turned us into a unitary state. And we're no longer a secular state because they've imposed Sharia. So with those two, there was nothing really they could do. If our people had listened to us in good time and we're not anarchists, that was why we began with a meeting of the whole country, which was the pronaco we had to undertake at the early time so that we can have a consensus. We identify what we are rejecting. We identify what we want in place of it. So we're able to present ourselves to the global community to say, this is what the issue is. Otherwise, they're going to criminalize us. And so having made out that plan of how to delegitimize the instrument, that's the core of the campaign for all of us who own the sovereignties that the British confiscated, because that was what they did in 1914. They confiscated our sovereignties. They had treaties with Egba, they had treaty with Ijo, they had treaty with all kinds of people. Without talking to any of those people, they consolidated those treaties into one sheet of document in 1914 and say, we've been merged. And so our sovereignties that are thereby been confiscated and consolidated into the union carried forward in 1960 after the negotiations that gave us some level of autonomy over our spaces. Of course, you saw how Awolowo did with the sovereignty of Western region at the time. You saw how Obara did. You saw how the one, even Ahmadu Bello didn't fail in the north, but they had control over their assets and they could make their priorities. But all of that, from the point in 1967, those things got toppled. It was no longer the union we agreed to be, and then they compounded it by bringing Sharia when they brought Sharia. So we began by getting of everybody.
Hello.
Hello, we can hear you. We're still hearing you. Okay, we can't hear you anymore.
Right. Let me take out there's an interruption. Let me.
People are just coming in. Today we are hosting Tony Nnadi from the Ninas, and the honorable members from the Secretariat, they are supporting him. So it is the network, bear with us. We have people who are here to ask questions, but the network is trying us. Okay, thank you, sir, thank you. We can see you.
We can see you, Anthony.
Yeah, sorry, there was a call that disrupted something. Disrupted there. So as it were, we set out very clearly to get a consensus of all of us who are in that trouble, because these people did not spare anybody. They didn't spare. They started from the strongest point of opposition. At the time they grabbed Awolowo and put him in prison. Then they went on to the Igbo, they went on to the Ijo and all of that, taking us out one after the other. So the first time they had a real challenge was where we called a meeting of everybody that included the Fulani. Buhari was part of the meeting, the Fulani delegation that came to 2005, 2006. This Sultan that is in Sokoto now, Sayed Abubakar, was part of the Fulani delegation that came. So Ijo came as Ijo, Ogoni came as Ogoni. We went around the country. The ones who were carrying arms against state at the time, everybody was persuaded to come so that we can have a consensus, so that we can see, standing on our sovereignty. Let us now see how all of us can agree on what we want to do, and somebody will sit in one corner and say it's government, and therefore stronger than all of us. He would then have to stand on his father's plot to be speaking to us in that federation. If he cannot manufacture something superior to our sovereignty, he would then have to dress back to his own father's plot. Our union will come to an end, because it's a union of constitutions dependent on our sovereignties that are now consolidated. But where they missed the whole ball is that they claim that we submitted that sovereignty by ourselves. And that is the exit gate God opened for us since the time they brought that constitution in. You put my signature on a document I didn't make. My own task is to say I didn't make it, and that's the end, like land. If you are dragging land with somebody, you have a title deed, and then somebody brings a forgery and puts your name on it as the one who signed it off for him. That's what they did in that constitution, to say we the people means we the Yoruba, we the Ijo, we the Ogoni, we the Igbo, having discussed and agreed amongst ourselves, now want to be in union. So if that did not happen, and we have proof of it inside the document, that was what we set out to work with. And we put a map to it, we put a roadmap to it step by step. we went out to the international, circuit and talked to those we needed to talk to. And that's how we got to where.
Into your presence, my helper.
Are we still there?
We are here. We are
Can you
here.
mute that person, please?
What's it?
Tony, continue.
Right.
My helper.
I'm going to mute everybody.
It's better. It's better.
Somebody's been a party pooper right there. Okay, sir, go ahead. Unmute yourself. Oh, okay. I have to unmute you. That party. Okay.
Right, I've unmuted. Where we are now is that this enemy did not see, they were not able to interpret what we were doing when we were building that alliance. This enemy did not understand what it meant when we went to court in 2007 to say we didn't make this constitution. This enemy did not understand when we began to act together jointly to say, everybody go and do your solemn assembly to repudiate this constitution to the hearing of the global community. It happened in Port Harcourt, it happened in Ibadan, it happened in Makodi. It was after we had done all of this that we began to work our way to, the joint and the enforcement of our consensus, because we have now a consensus of taking back our sovereignty. We have a consensus against the constitution that brings them to our space. How are we going to get them to leave our space? They have all the guns in their hand, but that's the list of our problems if we do the right things we need to do. And so we came out in 2020 to now commence the enforcement of that consensus. You can see we have maps to the things we are doing. There is a definite Yoruba land that is not in dispute. There is in the eastern side, that's in the southern Nigeria, when you remove the Yoruba, the balance of what is in the south, we have Bini land, you have Ishekri land, you have Urobo, and all the way to Anang and Efik, Igbo in between, So we made out this map, and everybody can identify their own disputed space in the map. And then in the places where we have more than one language, we also went into making a charter of relationships. So that little Ogoni, little Isoko, medium Urobo, big Igbo, big Ijo, everybody standing on their father's plot are able to work out, because this enemy is not going to leave anybody. This enemy has taken everybody's house. This enemy is going to kill off
this network, guys.
In their lands. So first, in that formation charter, all of us have a charter in that part that will only go to referendum for ratification. Yoruba will have their own constitution since they are only one language. They don't need a charter of relationship in that manner. They are one language group. Middle Belt have a charter of relationship where the Jukun, the Doma, the Thief, and it was in this formation. It was in this formation of all of us on one side and people who have embraced another civilization on the other side that we were able to gain the attention of the international stakeholders. It was because we came to say to them, look, we live in a union in which our compatriots don't hold human life sacrosanct. Because in adopting Sharia, they owe it a duty of faith to kill the rest of us as infidels. They do not believe that all men are born equal. So when you come to tell the Americans that there are people who owe it a duty of faith to kill you because of the faith they adopt, that there are people who believe that all men are not born equal, therefore they are born to rule you, and they won't let you be equal citizen with them. It began to attract their attention. But then God moved again and caused them to begin to openly associate with the terror networks of the Middle East, ISIS, and the balance of them. They began to do things that look like jihad. And then we stood on that, all of us holding hands, because the international community will not create 350 countries, the number of language groups. If Nigeria is not holding, then what? If you do not put a handle to it, You are inviting them to create Isoko country, Ogoni country, Juku country, and all of the, because if you don't do that part, they are not the ones to come to organize you. So that was what we did in the first 20 years before that force majeure, to enforce what we have sorted out as what we want in place, so that our joint task in that alliance is to break that prison compound. The question of what will happen to Yoruba land and Yoruba sovereignty is the reason we asked everybody to make their constitutions. So NINAS is a special purpose vehicle that will have delivered in its task if that monster is put to death. The monster sucking your blood, sucking my blood. All of us hold human life sacrosanct. So we're going to be neighbors in whatever formation we subsequently agree. But the first task, the first order of business is to take down that constitution that brings this enemy to our spaces. That's what NINAS has done. That's what NINAS is enforcing. If our people will listen even now, they're advertising election. Election is mandated by that constitution. Election is the mechanism by which that constitution is renewed every 4 years. And so, as part of the enforcement, that force majeure, we had a 5-point proposition that begins with acknowledging everybody will have to acknowledge. We just told the federal government so that the whole world can see that we're not anarchists. That was why we gave them 90 days of notice. Many people think we are waiting for federal government to come and agree with us. No, we were only telling because our right to self-determination is, our sovereignty is inalienable. It doesn't depend on them. Yoruba sovereignty does not depend on anybody in Abuja. Our self-determination that is, pertinent to that sovereignty, that is, flows from that sovereignty, is also inalienable. Even the UN had come to that, formal position since 2007 that our right to self-determination is inalienable, meaning it doesn't depend on anybody else agreeing with us. As long as we are a distinct nationality in our ancestral space, it accrues to us. So the work we have done is to aggregate all of the disparate peoples of Nigeria in formations that can be cohesive and viable to stand on their own and be able to do what countries do for themselves, and also be able to push back whatever this enemy will be planning to do. Maybe trying to upturn all of what we might do to dislodge them. And so where we are now is that we have launched that force majeure, and the only task we wanted our people to join in performing was to stop the journey to election. As a demonstration of their rejection of that constitution, we had assured the international community, the international stakeholders, that our people will do that bit. At the time, they were committing to all kinds of things they will do. I'm sure some of us, most of us, if not all of us, we saw what happened in Abuja 2 weeks ago in terms of what the US did. Many will not understand how they came to that line of action. In 2007, we spent 7 months with them in Washington, and we were showing them what was happening in terms of terror. We were showing them the role of our president and commander-in-chief and some of his service chiefs and some of the governors, particularly the one in Kaduna. And they interrogated all of what we put before them to say, look, this enemy you are fighting in the Middle East has located to our space because you have pushed them out of the place, and that our president is the one admitting them into our space. They are being reinforced with the sovereign assets of Nigeria. If you do not come along right now and do what you need to do to stop them from, completely taking over the sovereign assets of Nigeria, and by extension, West Africa, because Chad and Niger Republic and Mali, all of those contiguous territories beyond Nigeria are already more or less in their pocket, but they do not have the resources to be able to hold it together, which is why they are targeting the assets of Nigeria to be able to hold that vast territory together. And if that were to happen, the US, we told them, we are going to pay in blood. And so it became a national security question for them to answer. And they then asked us, what is your proposition for how we can solve that problem? We of course knew that they had come to where they are not eager to send their boots to ground in foreign places. And so we showed them this plan. this our own autonomous plan of working together to take down the constitution, because that will end the union with the people who have gone to bring this terror network into our sub-region. If the union is ended, the first thing that happens is that everybody will dress back to their own plot. So that Sharia belt, they will have to dress back to their Sharia belt. Yoruba will hold its ground. The eastern side will hold their ground. The middle belt will hold their ground, having made out the charters by which they could relate. Prior to our alliance, you couldn't get the Ijo to talk with the Ogoni. You couldn't get the Shekiri to sit under the same roof with the Urobo. You couldn't get Igbo to be in the same room with Ijo. You couldn't get everybody was at everybody else's throat. Juku and Chief, who are supposed to be the same people, were always at war. And when you look at all those fights, you will then begin to see the hands of that same enemy stoking the fire all over the place. The states they created those states in such a manner that there was always a conflict coming from the question of who gets those problems before created those men. It was in perpetual quarrel among them, over the entity, and with all our economic assets, and our people are living in exile all over the world. We don't have electricity, we don't have security, we don't have anything. And the only reason we don't have those things is because Nigeria is operating in our space. Let us sit down and define that Nigeria to everybody's satisfaction. They refuse. And so we said, okay, since we have waited 60 years, and you still do not want to believe that we are equal human beings, you still do not want to believe that we are equal partners in this union, then the union has become a parasitic. It's supposed to be a symbiosis in this parasitic form that now requires our life, because they have to exterminate us in order to plant their own people who they've brought already. We said, no, that's not going to happen. Our right will then have to be enforced. And it doesn't depend on anybody in Abuja agreeing with us. They can't even accuse us of anything. The ones who are fearing that it will be treated, we are the ones to explain. Unfortunately for them, I am the one to explain to them what treason means in the circumstance. That's why we come to tell them every time they try to speak that you are the one committing treason. You overthrew our constitution. We are not going to live with your imposition. The union, as defined by this constitution, is not our project. Our sovereignty is in our hands, and we have organized ourselves. We're going to take back our sovereignty. Now they are struggling to see whether they can drag us to election so that our coming to election with them will become a basis of saying we accept that constitution. And that's why we've been trying to explain to our people that going to election is setting the hand of the clock back, because the international community is waiting for us to demonstrate that we have rejected that constitution. If we demonstrate that, you saw what the Americans did. Did anybody ever believe that the US will have the reason for the fact of not sharing that intelligence with them is to tell them that we know that you are the one causing this terror, doing this, organizing this terror. That is what it means. And if they could do that without a ceremony, you could then imagine what would happen if we were doing our own part. And there's a difficulty because there's an understanding that was elaborate around the subject matter, because they asked us, what do you want us to do to solve this problem? We said, we are going to distress that constitution and end our union. And then everybody will be required to a third party. If we are no longer in a union by our action, we are in a position to bring it to that point where we are no longer in union. If we ask them to dress back and they are refusing to dress back, a third party will then have license to come into that scene. But if we continue to go to election because we are obedient or we are articulated or we are Baptist, we are just giving them license to continue to manage our affairs. And it will be internal affair, against the international community. If they begin to do or any kind of thing they do against us, will be the internal affair of Nigeria. So what we did by that force majeure was to raise the question of what is Nigeria, which Nigeria? That's the question. And until they answer it, the Yoruba will mind Yoruba land. Anybody coming to Yoruba land must come at the invitation of Yoruba people. And some of our people then began to ask, oh, they have gun, we don't have gun. We say no. Like I said at the beginning, the gun is the least of all the problems. How do we solve gun? We went when they were doing what they were doing in Benue.
We're frozen. Okay.
The only reason your constitution forbid you from touching gun. Now, all you need to do, send a bill to pass the bill. You sign it into law, issue firearms on the ground that the constitution that forbade you from doing that have been repudiated by the people. Autumn did it. As I speak with you, if not for the fights they're having there, Eastern Nigeria would have been overrun probably by now. But they can't jump over the cliff and come into the East because that's it is our fight as much as it's their fight. Because if we sit back because it's still in their space, it will come to our space. As it is with them, so it is with you. So if all of us, the Ninas is for us to act together and break the jail. Once the jail is broken, Yoruba sovereignty is in Yoruba hand. Is there anything anybody else is looking for outside this? But some of our people don't understand that. There are two transactions. One is to break the prison compound. The other, the reconstruction that will follow, will be Yoruba country, the other countries. If we go to another meeting of how we can live as Germany and France and Portugal in some kind of loose so that our people can live in Lagos and Port Harcourt as they did. That's a different transaction. It will not involve Fulani coming to sit in our midst. Since we do not have a common morality, their own civilization permit them to lie and deceive people. Your civilization, the Omoluabi, will not go lying and cheating and deceiving people. Your civilization hold human life sacrosanct. Mine hold human life sacrosanct. They owe it a duty of faith, duty to their God to kill you and to kill me on account of the faith. So there's really no meeting point in front. Say, okay, let us see whether they will change. Because if people like Sanusi, I'm sure you remember the Gideon Akaluka case, if people with PhD can be the ones leading in the kind of things we see them leading, going around beheading people, it doesn't matter how exposed they are. They still come back. You saw what Atiku did when the Deborah killing happened. You know, you saw what he said against the people who are passing anti-open grazing law, in their states. He said, so if he becomes president today because we are foolish enough to go with them to election, Atiku can become president. If Tinubu is declared president, in this state of health, we may just wake up one early morning and the man who floated Boko Haram in Nigeria becomes our president. That's the risk we are taking by going to this election. Shetima. It was Shetima that presided over that Chibok girl's abduction. It wasn't any Boko Haram. His records are, his open knowledge in the place he governs, that he was one that organized, what became that between him and his sheriff, they organized what became the Boko Haram. And so we're going to an election under the constitution that enslaves us, in which any of these people might become president. I think from afar, I sat eyeball to eyeball with him to interrogate him. 2016, he's just another Fulani man who is interested in keeping things the way they are. All the talk about restructuring for him begins and ends with the National Assembly, and that will not solve your problem, because that National Assembly is as they define it. What will solve our problem is beyond the mandate of National Assembly. It is the owners of the sovereignties that will submit their sovereignty into a union. We are coming into this battlefield from a position of strength in which we say we have no union. If they can bring any better proof of how we are in union outside that constitution, that's the end of the fight. With all the guns in their hand, they are not able to fire one shot. Even the US told them openly in April of 2020 that if you fire one shot in this debate, it will be a matter of weeks for you to be on the run. The US told them openly that this discussion requires you to go and sit down with the owners of the sovereignties. You rework your legal instrument. If you pull a gun in this fight, you can see. And so we have actually won this fight. But our people are being careless in thinking that they can go to election, and that same election is the only avenue left for this caliphate to save that, to put some life back into that constitution. If our people will listen even now, election is still in February of 2023. If our people will listen even now, it shouldn't take us more than 6 weeks to 8 weeks from the time they really listen to say, we're not going to election, because the purpose of not going to the election is to take down that constitution. That our reason for not going to election is that that constitution is unacceptable to us. Now, that same caliphate, we had a broadcast we made about their plan A, B, and C. Their plan A is just to overrun us, which by God's grace they're not able to do now. Time is gone past. Their plan B will be to disrupt security here and there and assume martial powers. If they assume martial powers, they will suspend our own rights. They might suspend the election on account of security they disrupted by themselves. They are the ones disrupting the security. You saw what happened in Abuja. Who was it that pulled out the soldiers that guarded Kuje prison when the place was broken? So every proof has emerged from everywhere that this commander-in-chief is also the commander-in-chief of the invading, terror networks. You saw the oil theft that was going on. Who else is in a position? He is the oil minister. He is the president. He is the one appointing head of NNPC. The document I was in the oil industry, so I'm not reporting what I know how it works. The documentations for crude oil, lifting and selling, and the NNPC, and then the president is the one supervising, appointing the two, supervising the two. But when one person is now the like in NNPC, he's the trinity of it all. Everything happens on his table. Now, the only other person who can see the theft happening is the Navy. No vessel enters our waters. Like airport. Your airport, no aircraft will just come from somewhere, come and load 300 passengers and leave. Lufthansa, come and go, and nobody knows. No, somebody has to get a slot to land and take off. And so those vessels, as they come, not only do they require clearance to enter, your Navy
please unmute, sir. Something mutes you. We can't hear. Okay.
All right. Okay. So those vessels, just to tell you that we have these people in a pinfall. We have that constitution in a chokehold. If we allow them to escape, it will be our fault. Because just as the matter of the terror was traced to the table of our commander-in-chief, the oil theft that is going on is also traced back to his table, because he's on his table that documentation takes place. He's also the commander-in-chief that will ask the Navy to stand down so that those vessels can pass. The vessels that come to Nigeria, those are ocean-going, those super tankers. Once they enter our international waters, our Navy must be aware of where they're going, where they're actually going. Immigration and customs often accompany the Navy, and they all document the crew to enter that, because if once they enter those our own waters, it becomes something that we have to, somebody from us who have to guide them to where they park and load. When they are leaving too, there's a clearance that somebody has to, certify what they are living with. And it is the Navy, it is the immigration, it is the custom, but particularly the Navy. Now, here is this same president who is oil minister and also commander-in-chief. Who else will ask the Navy to look away while vessels that can carry 3 million barrels of crude oil will sail in and sail out? It's only the commander-in-chief. So he is the one that will have to come to tell us who else is in it with him. So we say it pointedly. We say it very loudly. We say it to the scene in his presence. We say it to the international community that he's the one organizing these two crimes. So that's the kind of thing we're living in. A criminal enterprise that is now aiming at our blood in order to share out our land to his own people. And so we have victory already. If only we can stop the journey to the election, that constitution will collapse in a matter of days or weeks at the most. And once that constitution collapses, since we're an alliance that outnumbered them, and since that constitution that prevented us from taking up arms is now out of the way, Benue is an example that every one of the states, everybody can organize and get guns from wherever they can get guns, because it is guns they use to kill people. It is that constitution that prevents us from taking up guns. It's not that they know how to shoot more than us. And so that's where we are. The business of NINAS is to break that prison, all of us working together. The sovereignty that will emerge, for those who are waving Biafra flag all over the place, we want Biafra. Where is the map of the territory? Are you not able to locate it inside the map of the Nigeria that we have dismantled? The Yoruba nation people. What is Yoruba nation other than self-determination, other than independence? The only reason the Yoruba nation is here is the nation state you want to establish in that your space. The Yoruba nation is not in doubt at all, it's in place. But you are not in control of your affairs in that Yoruba land. And so the task is, how do you take charge of your Yoruba space and begin to rebuild your destroyed, your damaged environment, my damaged environment. And so the moment that monster is put to death, which is what NINAS set out to do, then your sovereignty is in your hand. Your land is in your, nobody, they are there, your people dragging Yoruba land with you, or Goni people driving, the Yoruba land is there. It's just for you to resume your sovereignty that the British confiscated into a project they call Nigeria, which they are not willing to discuss with you. So that's where we are. We have succeeded. If our people will listen and understand that there are two compartments of task, pulling down the prison compound and taking over our sovereignty to repair our spaces, we can then discuss as neighbors, free neighbors who would then work out what we want to be doing amongst ourselves and among. But no full animal will then come the day after, because we will all have the capacity in terms of arms. We will have whatever it will take to defend our territories in whatever form anybody coming from outside will want it. We are the only ones holding ourselves. Now, if we choose to go to this election, then we are validating that constitution one more time, maybe because Obi will be president or Tinubu will be president. That will not change anything. And the day after the election, they are not going to be able to raise the issue, because we either reject that instrument that enslaves us by rejecting the electoral business under it, just like the apartheid. Imagine if there were black people who refused to work with those who wanted to take down apartheid. They'll still be in their bondage today. That's what our people are doing now, in some people going this way and some people going that way. And the ones who say they want independence, what is the meaning of Yoruba nation? What is the meaning of Biafra? If you are working, what we need to succeed is that alliance that will act together. But the moment you say you want Yoruba nation, you want to secede from Nigeria, or Biafra want to secede from Nigeria, you are leaving the monster. That was the mistake of Ogoni. That was the mistake of Yoruba before 66. That was the mistake of Eastern Nigeria, leaving the monster intact and trying to move away by themselves. The monster will come from behind and swallow whoever did that. So the formula for defeating that monster is to behead them, all of us, hold the monster down, behead the sins. It's not about to spare any one of us. That's where we are now.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. For people who are just coming in, we have Chief Tony Nnadi from NINAS talking to us. He is very, very busy, and I wish our people know how long we've been trying to get him to be on Yoruba Gode. I'm very grateful that he finally makes it, and he has been giving us all the information that we have been craving for so long. I'm going to open the microphone for questioning so we can get as much as possible from this meeting. I'm going to start with Baba Moye. Before I go, I want to recognize one of our elders. Baba Mayowa Ogedengbe, you are welcome to our midst. Baba Moye, you are on, sir. If you have any question for him. I see that my Oga, Akoguntola Adeniyi has been trying to come in for some reason. The thing is dropping. Baba, please keep on trying. I don't know what is going on. Baba Moye, what is your question? So we can do this,
Well, at first, I want to once again welcome Chief Nnadi to the program. My question, a very short question is, you are aware that the man with the gun is the majority in many situations. The strength that you are bringing to this enterprise is to give courage to the people whose autonomy, whose liberty has been confiscated, to not just focus on the gun alone. The gun is not unimportant, but determination is very, very important. So as we move toward February or March 2023, what arrangement have you made? If you tell people not to go to vote, it doesn't mean anything much with the abusers of power. They will declare that somebody voted. I am a witness to what happened in 1964, where we boycotted election in Western region. And when we boycotted, maybe 1% of the people of Western region went to vote. 99% didn't. They declared the election valid. How do you prepare for that?
Our proposition is not about boycott at all. And those who have been presenting it as boycott are the ones on whose head the blood of the people who will be killed, because the Fulani have their agenda. They are not slowing down. They are going to kill those who make themselves available to be killed. And the blood of those people will be on the heads of those who refuse to listen and do what will have saved those who will be killed. We never talked about boycott. We said, let us say it clearly to the whole world that we are not going to election, shut down the journey to the election on account of having rejected the constitution that enslaved us. It's as simple as that. And we laid all of the foundations we needed to lay before we came out with that force majeure in 2020. That gave us 3 years to the point of the next election to do all of what we needed to do to prevent anybody from even discussing the journey to election in our spaces. But what did our people do? They just continue to muddle it all up, fabricating lies and spreading the lies, misleading those who are not able to read by themselves, even the ones who have education. They are not looking at what we wrote in the force majeure. Foreign countries are coming to are taking action based on what they read in that force majeure.
So I must be very slow, because what I'm looking at is what we are doing now, and come March 2023, the government of Nigeria will say that an election is going on, and the people of Nigeria, or our part of Nigeria, may decide they are not going to vote, but nobody is an electoral officer among them. An electoral officer will declare that election has taken place and the following people have been elected.
Sir, please, you are discussing a totally different subject. If our people cannot stand up and tell, if I cannot stand up in Igbo land and make sure that PDP and APC and Peter Obi's party are chased out from the place. Then I'm bargaining for Fulani to come to shoot me in that space. I'm not talking about Nigeria that will go to election and they say 10 people only voted or 1 did not vote. No. Shut down the damn election. What is election other than the people who win will swear to govern and
yeah, Ati Berelati 1 hour ago.
And defend that governed by
to try again.
So what they are not paying attention. Paying attention.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay.
It is because our people are not paying attention that they are doing all the wrong things. The work that needed to be done have been done. The question of gun, we began with the people who had guns, even before Pronaco. We had to gather their saris, the Waziri case, the Ghanaian Dams and Co. Our people inside, you saw the number of retired generals on the force majeure list. So we know about gun. We know what the laws say about gun. But we had to connect with our people who are going to be going to that election. And we came out, long time enough. If our people did what we asked them to do, instead of all the things they began to do, everybody wanting to reinvent the wheel in their space. If our people have spoken up to say, we are not going to this election, PDP, APC, the Labour Party, everybody, please leave our space. That's what we ask them to do. If they are not prepared to do that, even now, if they are not prepared to do that, then they're bargaining for a different kind of fight. That fight is that Fulani will come to their space and begin to kill them. At that time, they will then have to fight. Fulani is not going to stop. The only thing they're doing, they're buying more time for themselves, trying to see whether they can get another Fulani man to take over from them. They will continue what they're doing. And there's no one of these other people who are coming from all these other sides. Is it not Fulani that will conduct that election? They printed the PVC. They control INEC exclusively. They control the police and the army. What is the basis of your contestation with them? Even the Tinubu that is milling around them, you see the kind of people they impose, the kind of person that is second. Is that going to solve our problem? But what have our people done on this proposition? What have they done with this proposition? They ignored it and went about doing all kinds of something. Some were waving flag, shouting Biafra nation from afar. So even now, if we put aside what we were thinking before and do what we need to do, even now, it shouldn't take more than 6 to 8 weeks. From the time we decide to do what needs to be done, the election will go into disarray. We put out interrogatories. We had a plan for what to do if up to this time they are still talking of election. We put out interrogatories by which we're going to tear down their campaigns. Nobody's doing anything with those interrogatories. Okay, Peter Obi, you are going to stop corruption. You are going to turn insecurity. You are going to do unite the country. Do this and do that. We raised 10 interrogatories that will tear down those manifestos and promises and campaigns. And what our people are expected to do is to take up those things from where we put it and begin to engage. If our people will do what they need to do with those interrogatories, we put it in Guardian newspaper so that nobody says the parties could not roll out their manifestos because of those interrogatories, because everything they wrote in their manifestos were defeated by because we showed evidence of what will happen away from what they were promising. You say you are going to stop corruption, but there are provisions in that constitution that create corruption and protect the beneficiaries of corruption. No matter how well-intentioned you are not going to be able to touch corruption except that constitution goes down. You want to solve security. As long as that exclusive list is there and the arms and ammunition is there on that exclusive list, nobody among the federating units can touch gun. And so insecurity will remain. So no matter how you say it, among all the things they said they would do, we listed only 10 things. Cost of governance, restructured everything they said they were going to do. We took our time to say, this is why it cannot be done, so that our people can see from afar that they are lying to them. If our people will join in that discussion, their campaigns will get in where will dismantle. They can't even come to get started. But our people are not doing anything. Everybody is just, lamentations don't solve any problem. We knew that these people, the guns are there. We knew the laws are there. We knew elections will come. That was why we stationed it in the way we stationed it, so that those who want that freedom can have something to work with that will not expose them to being shot, in the manner we see in the East. But look at what Professor Kitoye, for instance, who we presented to the world as our chairman. He is now going to have joint press conference with these criminals that have turned Eastern Nigeria into blood festival. Simon Ekpa, Akitoye is holding joint press conference with people who are destroying what we are doing to try to save our people. From what he's doing, there may be people inside Nigeria who will listen and think that something is going on and then march out in Ibadan, Akure. What you see going on in Eastern Nigeria will happen here. And it will be entirely the fault of those who call them out from overseas. The rest of the Yoruba should stand up and tell Professor Kitoye and whoever is going with him to work with Simon Ekpa and the criminals that are parading themselves as Biafra Restoration Group. They are destroying the basis of this liberation in what they are doing. The Biafra they talk about, where's the boundary of that Biafra? Where's the boundary of the Biafra that Akitoye wants? Does it include the Ijaw land? Does it include Ogoni land? Does it include Anang and Efik and all the lands that are in the East 1967 Biafra? If it does, what discussion have these criminals had with those people? That's the issue. Let us call it self-determination. Let us call it independence. Let us call it freedom. Why do we call it Biafra? What is the meaning of Biafra outside this freedom and the land that will be freed? They are destroying what we are doing. If the Fulani come into our space, killing on the scale they are planning, guns will come out from everywhere. And I can assure you that those people, those who are going to election now against all of what we are telling them, those who are making the task impossible by doing the opposite of what will build this alliance, we are going to treat, I'm not a stranger to guns. I went to the university from the NDA. If the matter comes to where we will have to authorize the use of force in this discussion, those who are going to election under that constitution will be the first set of targets, whether they are Peter Obi and Labour Party or they are anybody from the South and Middle Belt who is prepared to swear to defend and uphold that constitution will be the first I will take out. Let them pray it doesn't come to where we have to resort to weapons. Fulani will not stop. If they get here, everybody will have to find guns. But I will not fire at any Fulani man until I fire the last of them who went into this election under this constitution, after all of what we have done in these 20 years. I was the one who insisted that guns should be put aside from the time in 1999 and year 2000 that the people who were fed up with Nigeria took up and we said, look, put your guns aside. We knew the risk we took to be able to persuade them. Say, let us have a framework. Let us have something the international community can relate to. And we're succeeded in all of that. But what do we have? Those who should have been standing with the people are looking for all kinds of things by the side. Noise and self-aggrandizement here and there. With no strategy of their own, with no plan of their own. They are destroying the one we are doing. And they're making noise all over the internet. But it's going to cost people blood here. Those people who are doing those things from outside. The reason we'll treat the matter the way we treat is that they have no care for the millions of people who are being endangered by what they are doing. They are not listening because they think they're in safety. We're not talking about boycott. We're saying it is within our reach. It is within our reach to tell the PDP and the APC and the Labour Party that we don't want to go to any further election under this constitution. That constitution will come down in a matter of weeks from that point. There will be no other thing to do than to go to transition. They cannot pull a whip, they cannot pull any gun if we can get it to that point. And there's no reason other than the greed and stupidity of some of our people. There's no other reason we've not gotten to that point at this time.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Please, I want to make this announcement. Some people are engaging in personal attack on the text. Please stop it. I'm not here for that. If you don't stop it, I'm going to remove you, and there'll be no apology. We are talking about something very, very serious today. We are here to learn. We are here to ask questions. Dr. Oyefule, it's your turn, sir. Dr. B. Oyefule. Dr. B. Oyefule.
Yeah, I'm here. Thank you, Lotu. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now, sir.
Thank you, Barrister Tony. Is he still here? Oh, there you are. Thank you very much for your presentation. I've seen you in action in the past, and I think you are still keeping the logical aspects of yourself intact. Thank you. And I'm sure everybody who listen to you today will realize how slow we have moved. I first heard you 20 years ago, remember?
Yes, sir.
Hello, Lutu.
Did you say 20?
Oh, 20 years ago.
Wow.
When Nnadi was 2 years old.
Yes, 20 was 6 months old then. And I thought, Tony, you were a dreamer. I thought you were a dreamer.
Yeah.
I spoke to our joint, somebody who happened to be our mentor, Anthony Enahoro. And he said, yes, Tony is a dreamer, but Tony is going to be an achiever. That's what he told me. He said, what you said, which was strange to me then. I'd just come back to Nigeria, year 2000. Actually, if you remember, I led the American team that brought Chief Enahoro back to Nigeria in April 2000. So he told me that, and this was about 2 years later, 2022, I think. He said you were doing a very good job. And I also agree with that. And I also confirm that even though I spoke with Chief Enahoro about the possibility of a mass action, and you told me in one of the conversations I had with you that guns has no place in this. So I can confirm that. And you were going to look at this from a non-militaristic, more peaceful point of view. Now, my question to you, the interrogatories that you put out, the ones published in the newspapers, most of us have not followed it, unfortunately for the country. Now the election is about 3 months away.
Yes.
What do you think at this point in time is the way forward?
Yeah, we told them even in that force majeure proclamation, we told them what will happen. We are not waiting for them to agree with us because we know they won't, just repent and agree with us. We said that if we have exhausted all the dialogue that would lead us to common ground and we can't find common ground, then we will reconsider our allegiance to that constitution. We are the limited toleration. We actually use the word limited toleration of that constitution. Now, we also made a broadcast to remind those who are going to the elections that the winner will find no Nigeria to govern. the fact that we say, let's not start with guns, it is by guns that we were, subjugated, whether it was the British or their Fulani collaborators. And so we are acutely aware. That's why I had to remind some of us that I'm not a stranger to guns. We are no strangers to guns. But there's a covert compartment. There's a compartment that deals with all of that. It was that compartment that went to the suppliers of the weapons that Nigeria will use. It was that compartment that dealt with the groups that began with acquiring weapons. All the groups that are armed in Nigeria, whether it was in the Niger Delta or in the Yoruba space or in the Middle Belt, we are just one phone call away from the command of all of them. And we encourage everybody to find whatever they can find, and we certainly know where to find more. You remember that when they delivered the jet, the Tucano jets, it took only one Zoom meeting like this, because COVID, had restricted all kinds of things. And so some of the things we used to come to do in Washington, we could now do on Zoom. It took only one Zoom meeting for the officials in charge. It was Obama that approved the Tucano jets. Trump refused to deliver. Elections happened. They said the Reds won. And then Abuja rushed in to try to go to take them. So we had to raise the issue with the people who were dealing with all of that to say, if you deliver these weapons, these guys are going to use it for all kinds of purposes. What do you want us to do? Say, can you put XYZ conditions so that it makes it impossible for them to use for the purpose that may be injurious to us? In that one meeting, it didn't take going to say, done. That was how it was solved. And you saw that our map of that alliance. That is the map by which they drew the boundaries where those aircrafts will not be found in the space of that alliance, in the airspace of the alliance. That's the condition attached. That's the condition attached to those jets. So many other things like that. And so our people, we are not naive. Even our people in service, we've told them, if they command you in the name of Nigeria, in fact, it came to where we went to national TV in Nigeria to say to them, look, if you want to go the brigand, the World Brigand Day, and you go to make an announcement, you are going to find out that no officer from any portion in this map that is broken into 4 will take instruction from anybody outside his own block. I'm sure you remember the map that is broken into 4. I've had the cause to go to national TV in Nigeria with that map on display to say, let those who are mad enough go to say they are going to go the highway that they went in 66. So that has kept them in check. They know that weapons are being, acquired in all kinds, because you are invading people. And the only reason they can't fight back is the Constitution say, we have defeated the Constitution. Just as some of the governors have not, some of the people who, and it doesn't, the governors will have, there's a limit to where we'll wait for them to act. If they don't take the lead, they will have to stand with their people or stand with the enemy on this matter. It's not as if they don't do, then we'll all go and die. No, it's not going to happen. The governor in Ondo, a few weeks before they were attacked, he's a lawyer. He was chairman, he was president of Bar Association. Say, Oga, there are things we are discussing with the other governors. Let's find some little time, review what we were discussing before. Somehow, he didn't make out the time. Then what happened? You saw the other day that he was the one who came shouting that Katsina floated an agency and they allowed them to carry AK-47. And so he was going to now, why do you have to announce it? Who are you talking to?
Exactly.
Go get the damn weapon. Right. Go get the damn weapons. And I told them that if anybody is killed in any of these alliance territories, it is the governors we are going to go after. If things break down, those government houses will be the first port of call. If we have to get the weapons and use by ourselves, our sovereignty, the portion of our sovereignty that entitles you to come to Abuja to take 5 billion, 10 billion every month, we are calling on it, that portion of our sovereignty that gives you immunity. That is what we need now to use to solve part of this problem. Like Autumn has submitted his own to his people. The ones amongst our own people, the governors, who will not be willing to bring that portion of sovereignty to cross those red lines at this time. We've told them openly that when things get warm, they are going to stand with the enemy because they are standing with that constitution and the enemy that imposed it on us. Come with us, stay with the enemy. Let nobody be under any illusion that this matter is going to go without some kind of boxing and wrestling. But how do you prefer your side? That's what we've been doing.
Bunch of greedy bastards.
Thank you very much, Barrister. Thank you. Olutu.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. For people who are just coming in, we have Attorney Tony Nnadi and many honorable members of the Secretariat of NENAS trying to explain to us where they are. I want to take this opportunity to recognize my Oga, Jaguo Dua, Akoguntola Adeniyi. Thank you, Baba, for your patience. I see that the error today, was just playing. Thank you so much for your patience. I can see that you are in now. So we are going to take questions. Because we want to learn, we need to know what we're supposed to do as their so-called election is drawing near. So if I see people's hand, I'm going to call them. Otuba Ozen, I see your hand up.
Thank you very much. I'm lucky to be called first today. I want to say thank you to all our elders. Now, Alagba Tony Nnadi, I know you speak Yoruba very well. Listen, and 2 questions in one. One of them, don't you think, will you agree with me as a senior learner friend that if we have taken advantage of 2020 force majeure result, are we going to be where we are today in terms of the result? So I will link that question with the problem I think we are still facing as Yoruba people or Igbo or whatever.
What's the meaning of results?
At least the result of the force majeure was not challenged by federal government. We could have chosen to collectively agree to go our separate way and say we have nothing to do with the constitution anymore. Am I right or wrong?
That was our next step in saying that we will not proceed to any other election under that constitution. That is what will put you can be arguing and quarreling until somebody actually touches the other. No fight will happen. The thing that will bring it to touching is to say we will not go to any other election in this space. We are going to referendum, and referendum can be first asking ourselves among, and then the one that will now require external hand is the one that will have to be enforced against somebody else. The referendum for deciding what we do, let people of Yoruba land say in some kind of, however we organize it. So these are the things we are supposed to be doing next after the force majeure, to begin to act on what we have achieved. But there was lots of concentration and people were going here, going there, and we were telling them these things are going to cause us setback. And they didn't listen. Not that those things cannot be done now. The only thing, we have lesser, we have shorter time, and the noise of the election is also affecting the number of people who could have been listening to us. So we have to now, we have those two additional headaches. But even now, as I speak with you, that constitution is dead.
Yes.
Those who do not understand the meaning of constitution, those who do not understand the meaning of, they are still thinking about that document that is painted green, white, and green, white, green. That's what they think is constitution. Constitution is union agreement. Have we agreed to be in union? What we did in 2020 force majeure is to say we have not agreed. We can act on it because we have proof of it. If our people will do the exact things we ask them to do, these parties that are, canvassing the election in our spaces, they are worse than the Fulani that are coming with AK-47.
Yep. Yeah, finally,
if we do not want to tackle that, yes.
Let me quickly round this up.
Go ahead.
I think, and I want to say what many of us would not like to hear. I've said it many times. I will continue to say it as long as I attend this honorable platform. It shows clearly that we are so seriously divided because of a level of our development. Because we still don't understand, and that is why I think the level of awareness is so low. We are not penetrating. That is the truth. Many people.
Hold on a second, sir. Hold on a second.
Yeah.
If all the broadcast platforms are available, imagine if, for instance, the Radio Biafra platform and all of the online platforms, Heritage TV there, Ayobundemu there, all of those platforms, imagine if they took it upon themselves to disseminate the information. None of them is participating in disseminating any information that can lead us.
Because they don't know what is at stake. We are not developed. Finally.
Because you see, so whose fault? Did we not invite them enough?
I agree. I'm also one of the media people. I agree. Finally, let me quickly round this up. Now we are being boxed to a corner. The larger question is this. It's convenient to say for everybody, oh, let us go to Abuja. Let us go and declare. Let us go and do. Don't you think makes a lot of sense to even to secure our own regions, that we put in place an arrangement to secure our own region first before we go to anybody? Do you understand the question?
What do you mean by secure other than guns? Well, the people who are in a position to lead that.
I'm having a problem from my state. My state governor is not participating. They are not interested. And there are a lot of elites in my state, for example, who are not interested because as far as they are concerned, status quo, business as usual. And I'm saying to you—
Which state is that? Let me tell you the situation there. Which state is that?
I want to apply 7th Amendment.
Which state?
I have a combination of Ogun and the Lagos State. But then on a more serious note, I'm thinking that the best way forward now is to get those who are not in support. We are not going to force them. Let us at least get our acts together in our regions, Igbo area, Yoruba area, before we go outside to the enemy. Because at the end of the day, if you go and fight outside and you're way back as a general and the doors are locked behind you, so what's going to happen?
No, discussions are going on, and not too long ago there was a delegation that went to the eastern part, Yenagoa precisely, and all of what you had Professor Benjamin Okaba, the leader of the Ijaw National Congress, the professor or leader of the Ijaw National Congress. You had him talking about the constitution of Nigeria as what has seized the Ijaw oil and gas assets. He didn't just jump into there were meetings that went all the way to where their boxing and wrestling capacities were, and they are all in concert. And so there's so much going on along those lines. They are not for for public consumption because they are delicate. But those governors who are doing this, the thing that will compel them will be when all of us begin to tell them this is not where we're going.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Tony.
Who has joined in saying that? Let us even try it for 1 week. Let us make an experiment. Not between that force majeure document and these interrogatories. The interrogatories will enable us to say, even now, you, Tinubu, our brother, you say you are going to, you use that interrogatory to dismantle his campaign. If you look at, I'm sure you must have seen some of the broadcasts where we took on P2B. P2B went on air to say that the constitution is not the problem. And in one broadcast, his campaign collapsed. He had to start afresh. He then began to turn it around that he's going to go to National Assembly to get an amendment to it, that he's not saying it's not the problem. So his campaign is in tatters. But it has to take knowledge to be able to dismantle what he's saying. If all of us join in telling the people from our own part, not one group going to say it will benefit us if P2B becomes president, I do not need him to get anything that I want from government. If he becomes president and I have to get something from government, I will not need to talk to him, because I will have 3, 4 doors and 10 windows to go and take. I will already have gone with the team before they will tell him, sir, we gave him. We have to give him.
Thank you, Tony.
Will that solve this problem? No. Why can't all of us join in saying it? The international community is disappointed in us that we have done all of this, and they've done what they were the ones who stayed the hand of these people from jumping over us. When Trump said that when Buhari said Trump asked him in their private meeting, why are you killing Christians? How did Trump get to know? So they've done all of what they needed to do to put Nigeria on that list of on the watch list, to put Nigeria on a country as a country of particular concern. Despite what Blinken tried to do, the institutions, have they not worked now? Blinken that removed that name from that list, did it stop America from doing what it has done now? There's a way the US works. Institutions, do what they have to do.
Don't forget that
we're the ones holding ourselves.
Tony, sorry to interrupt you.
I'm going to take somebody else.
Okay, thank you, Tony. Thank you, Tony. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Balogun Mayowa Ogedengbe, you are on, sir.
If we create a lockdown.
Yeah, hello. Hello.
Hello, Professor Ogedengbe, you are on, sir. What's your question?
Can you hear me? Yes.
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Yeah, Brother Tony, thank you very much for the information. I've been consistent over time in this vanguard. But I was there on the night of the proclamation. I can't remember. And when I'm seeing what is going on today, we have to face the reality. One, go back to the Berlin Conference of 1844-5. There were a lot of stalemates on the continent, among the rivalries among the European nations. If something came to a solution, the document for effective occupation. Effective occupation means that any of those actors, they get local chiefs to sign, and they play presence that they're going to be trading with them. It became a document of that authenticates their right to be there. Like, although if there is no constitution, as we say, the Nigerian constitution is null and void, what about the question of the international yardstick to recognize a space occupied by certain people? They say, does it have a mandate? If you can, either by coercion, you can control the people. There's no opposition and everything. They're gonna try. You can protect by means of the gun power, as we are saying. You can protect life and property. They're gonna do business with you one way or the other. If there's no effective protest to challenge the control, so the same thing will happen in Nigerian situation. If they go better solo on this election to hold it, where do we stand? For example, now we find out some of the emissaries, our group sent home to go and see what's going on in terms of how popular is the demand among the tactical masses of the people. We don't get it. A lot of people are not ignorant. So we are dealing with stuporous people, unconscious elements among the people. How can somebody who is sleeping, who's unconscious, can you wake him up to do anything? So what is going to come to is that who controls a space? What kind of means does he use to control the space? So whether right or wrong, legitimacy is a question that I'm the right, in international occupation and the right, that there are two distinct elements that people take into consideration. So now we don't have what we had in the 60s, the wet year time. We have a power in the rest of UPGA elements and the leadership. They were there as an alternative refuge for people who are attacking the status quo. We don't have that today because we are just like toothless mastiff hand, people in the opposition who can only back, they cannot bite. So I'm asking you, how do we solve the position in view of the reality that we are not popular among the tactical masses of the people? And the question of international body, they will do so, whosoever can exert control over space. If those people cannot be deterred, they're going to do business with them over time. So how do we solve those two major confronting problems that we face in terms of the situation? Thank you.
Thank you. Somebody has to create the situation he wants. Apartheid was there from 1910 all the way to 1990. It wasn't the way it was in the 30s and 40s. By the time it came to the 50s, where these two lawyers called Oliver Tambo and Nelson Mandela had come to join the others, they were now explaining to the others that it was the apartheid constitution that was the issue, and it took decades again from that point to get a critical mass of people who now insisted that they couldn't proceed with it. So they were trying to create. There was legitimacy. There was effective control. The apartheid government and the forces had enough guns to exercise effective control. Then the other people first made out a case for their claims, and then they began to mobilize people to become the force around that case. And then it came to a stalemate that compelled the announcement of 1990. We are closer to where, if you recollect the last 5 years between 85 and 90, we are closer to that turning point. We are closer to that turning point at this time than Mandela and co were to their turning point, because of the quantum of work that had been done. We went to the UN. I'm sure I've said it in some of, whether it's in this platform or somewhere else. It was Wole Soyinka that after Pronaco, we knew that when we get into the enforcement, we're going to be accused of treason. And we wanted something that will become an instrument upon which we can, build our mobilization for that enforcement. From the point we say that constitution is not of our making. And then it was the UN we had to approach through the informal channels. Luckily, we had a Professor Wole Soyinka who was close enough to Kofi Annan. I had a discussion with him, and he graciously accepted to go to ask Kofi to do what needed to be done at the time. And Kofi gave a feedback, and we worked on it, and it became the instrument upon which people are now fighting for self-determination all over. So that question of First, the legitimate claim, and then the force that will back up that legitimate claim for you to begin to control the place. The Constitution is what puts them in charge of what they are doing. What we have done brings us to where we only need to connect with our populace. The missing link is that those who should have been leading that connection are, all chasing different kind of things in different kind of places. If we had joined our voice but around that potent plan to say our task is to disseminate this information, connect with these masses, and then that will bring us to that point you're talking about, that the system will not be able to ride roughshod in the places because our people want freedom, just that nobody has shown them any mechanism for doing it. This obedient movement people you see, if 1/10 of them, if 1/10 of the energy that went into doing obedient movement was to be directed to saying we don't want to go to this election, 1/10, it will get us to where we're going. But what has happened? There are middlemen who want to go and share the loot of presidents. They don't care how they get there. They don't care that they might not get there. And that the Fulani may, on account of the election that is happening, declare whatever outcome. And so it's a pushing and pulling situation. But like I told you all, there is also the covert part. If the journey to election is truncated, but it could be the force of heaven that may decide to truncate it. If the journey to election is truncated by whatever mechanism, the election will not go on. If election is not going on today, everybody will come back to what will solve the problem. And so they can make their noise. We already told them that the day after, okay, let us assume that they even get to election and they say somebody has won, even if it's P2B, my twin brother. And they say, oh, so if he goes to swear to defend and uphold the constitution that enslaved you, I will then begin to clap. No. We told them they will have no Nigeria to govern. Things are going to get worse. I'm sure you hear the stories of things coming out. As of today, I think the dollar has gone to 1,000. It will go past that tomorrow and next. There's no road to election. The danger we face now, even more than the election, is the fact that the people who are luring us to that election are also working out something that will become suspension of election on account of security that they derail by themselves. Wow. If we allow that narrative that security has gone bad, therefore election, that's what they are doing. That's what they are going to do. Because they are not going to be able to impose the outcome they wanted. And so if because we are not saying what we need to say, the only thing we invited our people to do, say loud, say.
Hello?
Say. They did it. They are not. It is when you head because they've not looked. And there's nothing complicated in it.
Yes. Just change the damn constitution.
Just say it.
I brushed. And I saw you feel this bloodness in my stomach.
It's so difficult to change the damn constitution.
And then go and brush it.
Can you unmute, sir? Oh, you are muted. Okay.
Any hand up? I see one hand up.
Yes, okay. There are many hands up. Yeah, there are many hands up.
Olotu, this is this again. But can you please the aspect of the second? You know, to Tony is that the question of the fickleness of the people of the masses is always a factor. You know, in 19 they always, if there is nobody to say no, we have proxy power in that at time that people were like rock of ages for the dissenting masses of the people. We don't have that today. If we don't, the area where we are so deficient in terms of getting information to the masses of the people, we don't know. So, Dr. Oyefule was mentioning about 70 to 80% of the masses are not conscious of. They cannot fight. They don't even know what to fight for. You see? So if you want to do things, I don't know. You know, you don't need to discuss if there other covert plan to get this message to really, really motivate people to get the unconscious masses to make them to be conscious. That is where we say whatever we do is that it will come to that. I know
there are people in this meeting, sir. There are people in this meeting who have taken it upon themselves to first understand exactly how what Ninas is doing can deliver the freedom the people want. And then they began to make flyers. As I speak with you, flyers are traveling around Ibadan, Akure, Ugomosho, Osogbo, everywhere in between. Little town halls are happening. More will happen. A major press conference that will bring it home to many more people. All kinds of things are going on as we speak, because some of those who should have been doing that all the while, began to pursue other things, and we didn't know who else to send to, because it's Yoruba people that will talk to Yoruba people. Ijaw people are talking to Ijaw people, but it must be the Ijaw people that understand exactly what you are saying, that can explain to their own people in their local language. The same thing with the thief and all of that. So where we've been having a gap is those people who have to come to take a distribution chain. We have manufactured, our warehouse is full with all of what we need to free ourselves. Who are those who come to take it into the distribution, the retailing, the distribution and the retailing? Somebody has to come to take it to their own retail warehouse and then down to the end user. That's so how we cover that gap is for more people, the ones who are making broadcasts for self-determination every day. If they could take it upon themselves to even consider this option, check it thoroughly. But they assume they know what they don't know. They assume it is election boycott we're talking about. They assume Tony Nnadi wants another constitution to be written for Nigeria. That's not our campaign. We say that we are no longer in the union we agreed to be in, and that what this constitution that is on the table has imposed on us is not acceptable to us. Right. And since it is our signature they put on it, we will not take it any further. Therefore, our campaign is to dismantle that constitution first and foremost. Then we go to the two-stage process of getting people to recommit by referendum. Is that not the point at which Yoruba will decide whether they want to carry on or not carry on?
Right.
Are we not closer to that self-determination and independence we seek through that process? But some people don't want to work from where they are. They want to build a house from the roof. From where we are now, there are a lot of hurdles that can become treason, that can become shoot aside. Luckily, we have enough of know-how, enough of knowledge of law, enough of knowledge of jurisprudence, enough of knowledge of how guns are distributed in the land and used to guide our people to say, do this first, then we do that. We were lucky to break through in the international circuit, to break their hands out there. Between the alliance we built and the onslaught against the constitution that we have succeeded with, and then this putting the terror tag on them, if they overcome us, if they sustain this union for another 1 year, it will be entirely our fault. It will be because we refuse to lift our fingers, to lift our hands and do what is left. The prison gate is open, wide open. They are the ones who are struggling to take us to where the union can continue. The union is at an end as at this moment. But if we allow them to drag us to where they close that prison gate again, I'm sorry for our people. But the fault will be with those who ought to have paid attention, taken that material to connect with the masses of our people, which is once the masses of our people get to know, they are fed up, whether they're in the East or they're in the Ijaw land or they're in Yoruba land or they're in Tiv land. Nobody wants to have business with these people who do not hold their life sacrosanct, who come to kill them, to take their land.
That's right.
And we have a formula by which we can defeat their title We have defeated the title. We have a formula by which you can enforce it safely. But people want to go and fight. What were we doing in 1967 to 70? Was it not a fight? We have won that fight. The alliance that was used to beat down, the alliance that was used to make all the decrees that became constitution now, has been overtaken by our own alliance. But if we refuse to stand up from ourselves and go to the exit gate, we are giving them opportunity to close the gate again. And that is what the people who are going to election now are doing to us. It doesn't matter what they try to tell you. If you want to bring them down to what they are doing, go to those interrogatories and see how hollow their claims are. Next question.
In the damn constitution. Simple.
Okay, I'm going to. Okay, let's be organized, please. I'm going to call Baba Olushola Ajolore. Our guest introduced Baba the other time. So Baba, you are on, sir.
So please, what a country.
So where is that coming from? I have no idea. Baba, you are on, sir.
Is the breathing apparatus.
Okay, what is that?
Is his breathing apparatus. Breathing apparatus.
Ask the man to put it off.
Oshe Baba. For Baba Jolore, yeah. No, but we can't take.
Are you hearing me?
Yes, we can hear him, but Baba, I don't want you to disrupt what you need for anything.
Are you hearing me?
Yeah, we can hear you, sir.
We can hear you, sir.
Okay. Mine are just a couple of comments. The issue is that most of us don't even know what the Constitution is about. The Constitution said, "We the people of Nigeria." Well, it was not we, because Femi Gbajabiamila, the Speaker of the House of Rep, admitted that it was hurriedly handed over by the military. On the religious side, it says we, but I know that Sharia is mentioned 73 times in that constitution. I know that Grand Qadi is mentioned 54 times in that constitution. I know that Islam is mentioned 28 times. I know that in that constitution, Muslim is mentioned 10 times. There's no mention of African traditional religion. There's no mention of Christianity. So where is the we? And I think that was the reason that late Rotimi Williams was quoted as calling it a document that lied against itself.
That's right.
Sage San also said it was a fraud. What was it? Who said it was even one of those who drafted the Constitution calls it illogicality, and I believe it is the problem of Nigeria. For as long as we will continue to be slaves, and the enslavement started with the British when they gave us this marriage of men. What they did for purely economic and administrative convenience sake was to bring us to that, so that the South will always be servicing the North, which is what we're doing today. But besides that, there are 98 items that the federal government called the exclusive list. Only 30 are under the concurrent. But if the ones under the complaint, there is a clause that says where there's a conflict between federal and state, the federal takes the upper hand. So you can see all the 6.
Yeah, but the fact they're gonna die anyway.
96 are in the hand of the federal government. How many of our people know this? How many know that security is under the federal list, that economy is under the federal list, that policing is under the federal list? That is why people will just be transported down south, because a clause says any Nigerian is free to move anywhere he likes. It is the constitution that is our problem.
Exactly.
Nigeria is like a vehicle with a knocked engine. Nigeria it's like a vehicle with a knocked engine. It is not a driver you need. You need a change of engine. And this man who Oputa said it is structural injustice, and that people will come and go, but the system will stay. It is that system that is grinding us. Until we get away that system, we will be dancing in the same circle.
Thank you, Baba.
They are going to invite the foreign investors. What are they going to use to power the machines they will bring? You are not allowed to generate your own electricity. You have to rely on the grid, which is epileptic. So
yeah, wicked evils, man. Wicked evils.
That's our problem. It is the constitution. It is not personality. It is principle that we need to bring down. You know.
Thank you, Baba.
Hello,
so much,
please,
Baba.
If I have your contact, there's something I had written on this. I had spoken in my own state. I will post it to you. By the time you have read that, you will see what I'm talking about. So we have put ourselves in the gulag we are now by our own hand. If we go and enforce fraud, because if you and I go and vote in 2023, we will be endorsing fraud. We will be endorsing illogicality. We will be endorsing the problem of Nigeria. We will be endorsing a lie.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Our time is fast spent. Please, let's go straight to the question. The time that Barrister Tony Nnadi gave us, we have exceeded that time. And I don't want to discourage him from coming back when we need some more enlightenment. But please go straight to the question. If you are not going to the question, I'm going to mute you so I can call somebody who wants to ask question. Grace. The name is Grace Phone. That's all I can see. So you are on. Please go straight to your question. Grace.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. My question to Mr. Nnadi.
Good afternoon. Good evening.
Good evening, wherever we are. My question to Mr. Nnadi is that we believe that the amalgamation that combined all the regions of Nigeria expired.
Okay.
Has expired in 1914. Are we entitled to self-determination at this period? That is one question. And if we are, what stops every region that wants to be on their own from being on their own? That is the second question. I was following the Nina's.
Please let's limit it to two questions.
Every request they have made to federal government, they have rejected and they have denied and they have refused to come to table with whoever, anybody who must have tried to make any form of request.
Yeah, because they're evils.
So if this is the case, you are not okay, let the talker talk, please. Okay. So did you finish your question, Miss Grace? Miss Grace, we can't hear you anymore. Okay.
Okay. What I'm saying is, did you hear the question I asked?
Yes, I heard them.
Okay, those questions. Then my last question is, how long are we going to continue to wait until federal government respond to whatever questions we have before them? And what do we do to those people?
Okay, you are asking number 4 question now. There are other people here. Please let him answer the questions so we can go. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, let's begin from let's take them in a certain order. Some of our disappointment is that with all the education we have, the reason the Fulani who have no fraction of our education have been controlling us is that they pay attention. The radio they ask them to hold, they hold that radio 24 hours and they do what they're asked to do because they are waiting for instruction and they carry out those instructions. In the force majeure we put out, we only notified the federal government. We gave them 90 days of notice of the actions we are going to take. Most of our people did not read those things. They just assumed they understand what we are doing or saying. No, we knew who they were. Therefore, we would not have gone with, we couldn't have drawn up any plan that will require their coming to agree with us before it can proceed. Our right to self-determination is inalienable. Our sovereignty accrues to us. Inalienable too. So the 90 days notice, we gave them a 90-day notice to say, you are the ones operating this criminal enterprise. We are the ones suffering from it. But you put our signature on the instrument that empower you. We have organized ourselves. We are going to wind up the union so that every one of us can go begin to repair what you have damaged in our space. But so that everybody can see we are not anarchists, we are going to give you 90 days to come to the table of where we can work it all out like South Africa did. It wasn't the parliament in South, it wasn't the government in South Africa that did away with apartheid. It was CODESA, and government was just another party. Government was just another stakeholder on that table of discussion. The sovereignty of the people were on the table. And they decided what would be their new society. They put away the instrument that was imposed. And so we gave that 90 days. Say, federal government, you are the one standing in front. You better come because in the days ahead, you may not have anybody to talk to. After the 90 days, we gathered in Ibadan the day Igboho came to join us. We said, federal government has not come. They went to, instead of coming to talk to us, they went to National Assembly to try to rush some amendments to address the grievances contained in our force majeure document. Of course, it took only one public statement to dismiss the effort. It collapsed on their head. We gave 30 days to the governors because our notice was addressed to the federal government and they didn't come. So we said, if we begin to do the things we can do, the governors and the senators, our own people who may not have been given any opportunity to do anything in the circumstance, will say, So we gave 30 days, say the governors and all the elected officials, since the ones who are sitting the ones who we can call the enemy hasn't come for us to get into that discussion, can you come so we can begin to consider our options? Because our security is going worse and the federal government is part of how it's happening. The governors, again, instead of coming to us, instead of coming to table, they went to Asaba to begin to, because there was much pressure upon them at that time to come to be on the side of the people. They went to Asaba to say, okay, we're going to pass anti-open grazing law. That's all they did. Their 30 days passed. So we then went beyond them to say, the nationalities, because we can't be talking above their head. Let us now bring them into what all of us can begin to do. Since the federal government stayed away and the governors are not willing to come with us, that was the 120 days. We went around just to make sure that people got to know what was being done on their behalf so that they could play their own roles. And in all of that, we were building up, critical mass of people who will enforce, because the self-determination is a people's right. And so just to correct that impression, what we wrote did not represent waiting for government. And we have issued a number of public statements in press conferences since the first major to say, this is where we are now. It was in course of those dealing with the governors and the consultations that you saw some of the governors who now began to do some of the things they did, because they came at their own time, and because we said the door will remain open until something else overtakes everybody. So that's on that side. We were not waiting for federal government to agree with us. The right we have to exercise is inalienable, to us. So we are the ones who have to exercise it. Now, the question of amalgamation that expire, no. The whatever happened with the amalgamation was overtaken in 1960 when the British pretended they had handed over our sovereignty to us. And so it's a cheaper thing for us to latch onto the constitution that is the mechanism by which it's not the amalgamation that is holding us now. It is that constitution that they say we made by ourselves. The British left in 1960. If we didn't disperse in 1960, what was it that was holding us together? We went to Lancaster House to say, oh, the British are going. We are going to remain together. That was what we went to do in Lancaster House. And it was documented by way of the constitutions of the regions of the time and the one of the federal. And so from that toppling of those constitutions, we now landed with this unitary constitution. Unfortunately for the enemy, he put our signature on this one that is on the table now. The one we have to defeat. Anybody who is pointing you in any other direction for what to go to look for to free yourself, he wants you to go inside the forest to search for what is on the road where you are standing. That constitution is the one holding us now. If we topple it now, we'll be free now. And so the question of amalgamation and 100 years, it didn't even get to the 100 years. We took over our affairs in 1960. It was by our own volition that we entered the union that is now still standing, but on a fraudulent a replacement of the constitution we agreed upon. And then what was the third? The other question was about. What was the third question? The one about can somebody remind me, please?
Miss Grace.
Self-determination.
Self-determination.
Are we entitled to it?
We're entitled to it, and the instrument, the UN instrument that tells us what is due to us, we were involved in how it came in 2007. That was the one I said at the time we finished Pronaco. We were trying to put ourselves beyond the charge of treason, beyond the charge of any wrongdoing. And so there's an instrument that clearly defines, quite apart from all the ones that have been there all the while, we're entitled to self-determination. It was on account of even the constitution that is bad. It says in section 14 that sovereignty belongs to the people, from whom government, through this constitution, derives all its powers and authority, meaning that it is on account of our sovereignty. Those who could have been countries of their own, the Yoruba, the Igbo, the Ijaw, the Anang, the Efik, that could have been countries of their own. It is on account of that sovereignty that we become the one exclusively entitled to, making it, committing ourselves to a union and defining the terms of that union. That's what the constitution does. Two things. creating the union and defining the terms of relationships in that union. That's why in the preamble you see we the people are, having solemnly. Who are those we the people? It's not the crowd in Osho, the market, or the crowd in Dubai market. It is we the Yoruba, we the Ido, we the Igbo, everybody with his own land and his own sovereignty. And so we are entitled to self-determination, and it's the exercise of that right that we are driving now. But there has to be a mechanism for it. There has to be a mechanism. If you don't put a mechanism to it, they're going to criminalize it. You're entitled to it. But if you go and start beheading soldiers and policemen like we saw in the East, it becomes a new problem. They can stop you, they can now begin to shoot at you because they will say you have committed an offense. But in what we are doing, of course, we know that guns should be required, but you have to make out a case first. You have to set up the battlefield. That battlefield we have chosen is to say we are not going to election. So the people who we have to fight with are the political parties that are sustaining that constitution by election. That's a cheaper fight. We selected that fight because if we're able to get into a fight with them and the election becomes problematic so that they can't get there, then there's no other thing to do than to go to transition. That transition is now where two things will happen. Those who want to do further business will have to go to referendum to say they want to commit to union. If no meeting holds, I hope we understand this part. If in the midst of all of what we are asking to be done, nobody agrees to hold a meeting, the units, the people that are choking in Nigeria, on account of their sovereignty and their right to self-determination, will go unilateral. They don't require anybody. It's like a marriage that has gone to where people carry their bag and return to their parents' house. If no meeting happens, the man stays back, the woman stays back. Those who want the marriage to continue are the ones who have to come with palm wine to convince us to come back to any marriage at all. So we have the force majeure is where we have carried our bag to our parents' house. The soldiers that are parading in Ibadan and Abeokuta today are like the in-laws that are coming to that our father's house to say, you must come with us to this marriage. If we organize ourselves well, it will come to where they will leave our space because that marriage has collapsed. That constitution is the basis of that marriage. We are pulled back, we are pulled out from it. We have said it in the clearest form that we did not make. The way to now put signature to that thing we said is to say we won't go to renew by way of election. Because those people who are contesting for our spaces are also acting on our behalf. The ones who will be governors and senators, because they'll be swearing to defend and uphold the constitution we are purported to have made. We're in a position to stop them from acting on our behalf in that manner. Because as long as they are there doing that, of course, the international, those who are not close enough will think that we're all happy. The masses of the people, you can't blame them unless we bring this message to them and bring them to where they now join. It will not be their fault because they do not know what we know. We who know, what have we done? No, we're busy, chasing all kinds of other little things instead of, taking a plan that is capable of solving the problem. The plan is comprehensive, it's written. It's not something that is hidden. Anybody can lead it, especially in their spaces.
Thank you,
so we just need more people that will come to understand it and take it down to the people. It shouldn't be more than a few weeks for people to know that we can end this bondage now, not tomorrow. The only people who are pursuing something else are those who want to go and swear to defend and uphold that constitution, the political party people. And there's no difference between any one of them. Let nobody tell you that it will be better if party A or party B or party C wins. They will swear to defend and uphold that constitution, and you are back to where you began. I think we touched on all the things.
Yes, we did. Those of you raising up hands, I can see you. Paula me to OPPO. Please, I'm only going to take these 4 people. Nobody else. But remember that after we finish session, Yoruba Go, they still continue for more time. Baba Sule Bameto, please go straight to your question. so we can wrap this up.
Everybody. Barrister. Can I continue?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay. Question me neighbor Nnadi. The way we are now, so that we
what's your question? We are speaking English, oh.
Oh, excuse me. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry. Tony, I'm asking the question that what is it you think can be done to alleviate the problem that is on now, while we have some people that are already on top gear of self-determination.
So what is next? Is that what you are asking?
Yes, Mama.
Okay.
Let them the plan. There's a plan. You want a 40-story structure. You must buy the land, you must get the license, you must get the architectural design, you must buy the materials, you must get the workmen. If you want pot of soup, if you want pot of egusi soup, you must get your pot, your fire, your fish or meat, vegetable, water, palm oil. These are the ingredients. So we have a plan that can deliver this outcome. That plan has been worked on more than 80%. 75% of what we needed to get our freedom from this madness was in toppling that constitution. The balance of 25% is connecting with that information and stopping the renegades from our midst who are still going to look for what Nigeria will give to them. And so what we can do right now is to go to that plan so that we can have a plan. We can have something we're working with. If we don't have it, everybody will be doing just about whatever comes to their mind. So we go and carry their neighbor's wife and say it is that like the type we are seeing in the East. So we go and behead the policemen and roast their meat. It is Biafra they are doing. Let us, there are flyers that are, that we can reproduce. And I see somebody holding, one of there are things we can do within that plan to tell the summary of what we need to do now is for the world community to hear it from us, that we will not go to another election under that constitution we have repudiated. Let it be heard from us. The matter of enforcing it will then become something the covert part will, find a way to connect with those who are willing to join it. But if we don't say it, the people we're dealing with already have their own plans for what to do to derail even the journey to the election. They want to suspend this constitution. You heard when Malami told Buhari to suspend the constitution because they're going to assume martial powers. Even these ones that we're doing now, if they suspend everybody's rights because they've introduced martial powers, they can shut down the internet. They can make it impossible for us to even challenge them. Things can get worse. The people they want to share our land to are already in town. Some of us who don't live in Nigeria may not know how bad it is to be apprehensive going from Ijebu to Ibadan because they're already in the places. So we don't have that luxury of doing it this or that, but we have a plan that took into account all of what the other side is doing and what we can do.
I'm looking at it now. It's a lady.
Yeah, I think we can go to another question, please. We have a plan on the table. Let us go and embrace that plan and execute what is left in it.
Okay. I'm going to take this coming from the phone from one of those people on YouTube. He has been trying, but because they are on YouTube, they cannot answer questions. So I want to use this. I want to see whether this will work. Mr. Peter. Okay, can you ask your question? I put you on the speaker, and I think Barrister Tony is hearing you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much for your effort. We have spoken a few past, if you recall. So I know you have had your agreement with him. On the same time, they are doing a lot of very fantastic job towards actualizing Biafra also. So what I'm looking for is that way we can kind of collaborate.
He's not coming through anymore. We can't hear him now.
Just a minute. In such a way that
can you hear him?
Yes, it's better now. He's gone again.
Okay, he's saying, Mr. Peter, where are you calling from actually?
I'm in Toronto. I'm calling from Toronto.
Okay, Mr. Peter is saying what everybody else is doing, even though they are not in your group. Is there any way that you can put things together and work together and put everything together?
We have done everything humanly possible. I sat down with Nnadi Kanu before he began to broadcast to the hearing of other people. We have done everything that can be done to look for them and show them the plan that can work. They have no plan of their own. But we have come to the conclusion that they are criminals, clear-minded criminals who just want to collect money from our people because there is safety, and they don't mind the number of people who will be killed at home. When they grabbed him in 2015, my name is on the court order that granted him unconditional release. Yet when we brought him out, he still went back and did worse things that is costing us much blood. All of those, Simon Ekpa, the one that is broadcasting from Finland. What is the meaning of Biafra restoration? They have no map to the territory. They have they don't even know that constitution is the problem holding them down. They don't know they need to discuss with their neighbors who are also entitled to right to self-determination.
Okay, sir.
We have done everything. There's nothing to take from what they are doing, because what they are doing is destroying the possibilities we have. Ijo is offended.
Okay,
Ogoni is offended. Urobo is offended. Anytime you say Biafra, you have lost reporters or people that will be working with you.
Okay, let me call for more questions. Chief Balogun, what is your question, sir? In 1 minute. Chief Balogun.
Thank you very much. I want to say to Tony that how much I love him, how much I respect him. The most important question I have is that since, for example, since Yoruba was a nation before the amalgamation, and probably the Southeast or something, do we really need referendum, especially since Niners have given the federal government notice which they disregarded, although nobody expected them to respond. But from all angles, as Baba,
do we still need a referendum? Okay, let him answer that question so we can go. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a practical situation. It's a practical situation. If you can give me 100,000 guns now, Chief Balogun, if you can give me 100,000 rifles now, and maybe 100,000 boys, we can do without referendum, because we will deploy them and make sure that everybody leaves our space. But if you don't have 100,000 rifles and men to give me, so that we can go and charge everybody out, then we have to work with a process that will cause a lockdown. What we need to cause now is a lockdown. That lockdown is people want to go to election. We shut them down from going to election. Everybody will have to come down from their high horse because the bridge is broken. And then we discuss how to proceed. If you don't put referendum to it, you are going to have people, these same people who are going to election now are going to say they don't agree with you, that Nigeria is better for them. What are you going to grab them and behead them? It is referendum that is the 21st century tool for settling the matter we have raised. whether we want it this way or that way. And it is just to make sure that we don't, because otherwise you go to war. But you have not brought the jet fighters we need. You have not brought the rifles we need. You've not done so. We go the way of the one that is within our reach. Reject the constitution, cause a logjam. There's something called logjam. Everybody will come down, and then, according to the map we already have, we then ask our people in a yes or no fashion. Most of our people, we know how they will vote, but how do we get to making that choice? It is that choice we need to make. If we're not making that choice, then we have to get ready to shoot everybody to leave our space. And we can't be pointing to the sky when we have a plan that can be executed and deliver the outcome we want. Sentiments don't solve any problem. If I had my way, it shouldn't take us more than 1 month to do all of this. But it has taken this the 23rd year of making sure we go to talk to everybody, and organize them in the formation. They can have coherence and cohesion inside.
Thank you. Professor Yewale, please, 1 minute, just one question. We need to let Barrister Tony go and rest.
It's 11:30 on my. It's 11:30 p.m.
Okay.
We began at 9.
Baba Yewale, let's go straight to the question, please.
Yeah, I have just a very short question. Tony, thank you for your presence here today. For every, who's that? For every project, there has to be plan B and even plan C. I think waiting for the newspapers, radio stations to carry this thing is just like we're wasting time.
So what is the question?
Legislators and the governors to join is a waste of time. We need people to be, we need parallel street demonstrations.
Okay, what is your question, Baba? So we can.
Yeah.
You say you have one short question. I haven't had the question.
I will have finished. You interrupting me. Is there any plan to get people to actually be on the street, just like the politicians are on the street now? There should be youth and people understand this issue to be on the street, making peaceful.
Okay. So allow him to respond. Thank you, sir.
There's if you call them out now, the people don't understand why you are calling them out. You've not the work we have to do to build that critical mass of people who then say we don't agree anymore is to break this information down, show them how their liberation can come from what we have. If we don't do that and we just wave at them to come, they're angry, come out to the street, you're just going to expose them to all kinds of difficulties. So the enlightenment it is in 3 stages. Enlightenment, mobilization, enforcement, in that order. Enlightenment is where they see that, it's constitution that is holding us, and it's these political parties that are, so they become aware and conscious. Somebody has to take it to them. Then mobilization is where a large number of them are now conscious enough to begin to say, we can't take this anymore. When that number grows, it will come to where they will have the power, the strength to say, beyond this date, anybody we see, we slap. In that order. So it is enlightenment. If you don't go to take the information and disseminate to that large population that is not yet aware, you are the one holding yourself at the beginning, at the point of where you should have gone past. Then it is the number that gets into that knowledge that will begin to mobilize other people. They will join in bringing other people to say, look, we can end this madness now. When their number grows enough, they can then put a date, say, beyond this date, anybody will see waving party flag here, or doing XYZ here. In that order, enlightenment, mobilization, and enforcement. If you jump to enforcement, you end up in Eastern Nigeria.
Okay. Thank you, Alagba Tope Adeyoju. I'm so sorry. Your question came a little bit late. Time has gone. It's almost another day in Nigeria. Please forgive me because I won't be able to read those questions. There are many and time is gone. We will have another opportunity with Barrister Nnadi. But if we don't tread softly, we may not be able to get him for another 1 year. So let's Adetunji Atewologun, short half-a-minute question.
Yes, sir. Thank you, ma, and thank you, everybody. Good evening. My question is this, and I did not want to, but I think I had something. Then I decided to ask question. Hey, Baba, Mr. Nnadi.
Yes, sir.
What is your community doing to inform the people that the Yorubas are not the enemies of the Igbos? Thank you.
Well, is the work for all of us. The alliance we formed, we put everything in writing. We have visited everybody, explaining to them. In fact, when we go on some of those trips, we make sure we're accompanied by people from other parts so that they can. The essence of the alliance is for all of those who are in that trouble to know that it is not Yoruba that is the problem. It's not the Igbo that is the problem. It's not the Ijaw that is the problem. That's actually the essence of the alliance. And we've been doing our best to explain to our people. We also expect other people to join in explaining to their own people.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, OPPO A16K, what is your question? Short question.
So let that person identify himself or herself, ma. Let him or herself identify.
Yes, what is your name? So that people won't think you are Fulani. Fulani name. What is your question?
What's your name?
The man holding the flyer is the one being addressed now.
Okay,
unmute yourself and
what
speak.
Is your name? Unmute yourself.
Okay, my name is
what is your name?
Reverend David Salami, members of Yoruba delegation to Ninas.
Okay.
Thank you for this opportunity and what you have been saying for Tony coming online today and bringing us together. We have been working at Tony with what Tony has done. We have been going to the grassroots. Initially, we thought that, well, the grassroots is the problem, but to God be the glory. You can see we have gotten the flyers and we have been going around. We have been building the people from one village to the other. And as of now, we've been able to get people who are gaining the understanding that what Nina's position is the best and the most powerful instrument to set the indigenous nationalities free and get back their sovereignty. So I just want to encourage you guys to please give talk to all other harms in diaspora that what they are doing, like they want to go the way of the IPOB now, which is wrong. That we hello?
We are hearing you, sir.
For Yoruba nation to go the way of IPOB will not help the solution. We have done a lot of job to the level. We are just waiting to harvest the old efforts that Nina have made.
Let me see. Check.
But if we go through the IPOB system, we are facing a serious tragedy. God will help us, and God bless you all.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Hello?
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm just going to mention briefly one of the people who sent me text. She asked a lot of questions, but one of the things that I really want to point out about what is said, and that is Ìyáàfin Mujidat Agbaje. He is asking for Ninas to do a lot of public enlightenment, to let people know what is going on, to educate our people so that we be where we're supposed to be. So in rounding up, Barrister Nnadi, I want you to give our people some sentences, something that they can take away from today's platform.
Thank you. I thank everybody for coming and to inform us that God has given us victory over this enemy. It took over 200 years for this enemy to establish itself in our space. From the time they came in 1804, by 2004, they had been here 200 years. What were we doing all this while? So if we draw up a plan of 20 years by which we will isolate them, delegitimize the instruments that empower them against us, and act together to charge them out of our spaces to regain our sovereignty, I will think we have done well, and we can actually finish the task without exposing any one of us to danger the second time, because we have been through danger individually when we try to do it individually. But now the one line of message is that the Ninas Alliance is a joint jailbreak to free all of those who have been trapped here into the failed Lugadian experiment of 1914, which the Fulani are now operating on behalf of their British masters. It is well within our reach to do, because that constitution has our signature on it, and we have pulled it back since December of 2020. If we insist that those who want to go to renew the life of that constitution cannot get there, that's our freedom right there. It doesn't require any more things. All the things we need to do for us to cause the logjam. That logjam being that we can't operate, we can't proceed with this constitution, especially in the election that will renew it. That's what I want to tell our people. It is doable. More than 75-80% of the task is already done, and nobody's going to shoot at anybody if we keep it along that line. But if we jump out of line to say we want to go and behead a soldier and a policeman, the enemy will have opportunity to begin to kill those in that area. I don't think we need to do that. Thank you once more. I would think we invite everybody to join in that enlightenment. That is what is really required now. Let more people get to know exactly. Let people not say it is boycott we're talking about. Let people not say it is to write another constitution that we're talking about. No, we want to terminate the one that is there and then go to the decision on whether we want to carry on as together or not. It is when we have taken that decision by a referendum that we can now begin to talk about constitution. It's not to write another constitution that we are fighting for. It's not boycott we are fighting for. I think that's where I want to end for the day. Thank you
So much, sir. We are going to need you again. And I know that you're not going to say because we turn 1 hour to 3 hours, you're not going to come back.
No. It's a campaign that must be driven to logical conclusion. Even if I have to meet every day, as long as our people are coming in and doing what has to be done, the earlier they come in larger numbers, the earlier we're able to finish. Thank you so much, for the effort of getting everybody together today.
Thank you so much, sir. I'm taking this opportunity to thank those people who have worked with me to make it possible to do this part of the program. I'm grateful to Barrister Ogedengbe, Tayo Ogedengbe from London. He has kept working with me. And I also thank my dear auntie, Otumba Shade Olukoya, who is always there. Thank you so much, auntie. God bless you. So on this note, I'm going to be saying bye-bye to Barrister Tony Nnadi. Good job and God bless you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Good night. Thank you all.
So, ẹ̀yin èèyàn wa, a dúpẹ́ níbi tí a dé bá ọ̀rọ̀ dé yìí. ó ṣe ní láàánú pé apá kejì tá sọ pé a máa mú wá, the other part that we plan to bring today, our time has gone. We were going to talk about our ancestral link in Brazil. Oh my God, I saw Akoguntola Adeniyi. Baba ẹ má bínú, I didn't know that you still here with us. I didn't even. Baba ṣe fẹ́ sọ̀rọ̀.
No, that's okay. That's okay. Let Tony
so
go.
Sorry,
There'll be other opportunities. There are issues that I wanted to raise, but let him go. We'll certainly have more opportunity to discuss Ninas and opportunity to discuss the communique that they said one organization and IPOP signed or made a joint press conference and so on. But I'm sure there'll be more opportunities to discuss all.
But I think Honored Otumba Olukoya is still here. Maybe she can answer that. No, she's not here. I'm so sorry. I didn't.
No problem, no problem. I mean, I'm learning every day. I've been with you all along since I joined in. You know, no problem at all.
Thank you, sir.
Your outfit is doing excellently well. You're doing well. You're doing very well.
Thank you, sir. So, ẹ̀yin wa ọ̀rọ̀ kan ṣẹlẹ̀ ní ọ̀sẹ̀ tó kọjá tí mo fẹ́ sọ̀rọ̀ nípa ẹ̀. Kó sì lè bá yé wa dáadáa ni mo ṣe fẹ́ lo èdè abínibí wa tí a máa ń lò lórí Yorùbá Gbòde ní gbogbo ọjọ́ ọ̀sẹ̀. Lẹ́ẹ̀kan sí, Ṣọlá Yusuf ní orúkọ mi. Oníròyìn ni mí fún ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ ọdún ní ilé akéde lóríta Bàṣọ̀run. Mo rò pé mo fẹ́ bá dé orí ọdún 14 nídìí iṣẹ́ ìròyìn kó tó di pé mo kúrò nídìí iṣẹ́ náà. Nígbà tí mo ti débí náà, iṣẹ́ ìròyìn mo fi ń ṣe àbọ̀ṣẹ́, ó ti wá ń di odidi báyìí. Mo sì fẹ́ ṣe àlàyé pé mo ní ìwé àṣẹ tó yẹ kí n gbà ní ilẹ̀ yìí láti ṣe iṣẹ́ tí mò ń ṣe yìí. Ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ àwọn èèyàn wa nígbà tí ọ̀rọ̀ di oní Yorùbá Nation, ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ àwọn èèyàn wa ni wọ́n di oníròyìn orí aré. Kò sí tó burú ń bẹ̀, iṣẹ́ náà ni wọ́n ń ṣe. Ṣùgbọ́n àwa tá a gba ìwé àṣẹ nígbà tí a lọ sí ilé, gbogbo tá a kà àti gbogbo ìlànà tí àwọn bàbá Tọ́lá Adéníyì fún wa nílé nígbà tá a gbé dé bí wọ́n ní kò tí ì tó. A tún láti lọ sí ilé ẹ̀kọ́ oníròyìn. Mo lọ sí ti Virginia. Mo sì gba ìwé àṣẹ EFCC èyí tí a gbọ́dọ̀ ní ká tó lè máa sọ̀rọ̀. Ní ìsìn wọn ò mú tipátipá mọ́, ṣùgbọ́n àwa tá a ti gbà á ní nǹkan bí 20 ọdún sẹ́yìn, ọdọọdún náà ni wọ́n ń béèrè pé ká mọ́ sọ́dọ̀tun. A sì ń gbìyànjú láti ṣe bẹ́ẹ̀. Ohun tí mo fẹ́ sọ̀rọ̀ lé lórí ni nípa ìkéde tí APC ṣe. Àwọn APC tí wọ́n wà ní àdúgbò yìí, wọ́n ṣe ìkéde ní ìjẹjọ pé àwọn ní ìpàdé. Wọ́n ṣe bí ìpolówó ọjà. Wọ́n pe ilé-iṣẹ́ wa, a sì gbowó pé kí wọ́n fi ṣe ìkéde wọn. Torí wípé ìkéde wọn kò bú ẹnikẹ́ni. Wọn ò sì sọ pé àwọn ó gbàjọba, bóyá ìjọba Nàìjíríà wọn láwọn ò gbà àbí t'Amẹ́ríkà. Àwọn ẹgbẹ́ APC tí mò ń sọ ní USA, wọn ò sọ nǹkan kan tó lòdì sófin ìjọba bí ti wù kó mọ. Nítorí náà, mi ò láṣẹ láti sọ pé wọn ò ní ṣe ìkéde wọn. Torí pé nígbà tí a gbé kinní sílẹ̀, mo gbé e sílẹ̀ gẹ́gẹ́ bí ìròyìn fún gbogbo ayé ni. Mo mọ̀ pé ẹ̀yin tí ẹ sọ, mi ò bá yín jà. Inú mi dùn pé a tiẹ̀ lè máa bára wa sọ̀rọ̀ tá a bá rí nǹkan tí ò tá rò pé ó kù díẹ̀ káàtó. Ẹni tó béèrè ọ̀rọ̀ ó fẹ́ díẹ̀ gbọ́ ni. Gbogbo iṣẹ́ tó bá ti jẹ mọ́ ìkéde, pàápàá nígbà tí wọ́n san tọ́rọ́ kọ́bọ̀ láti ṣe ìkéde ẹgbẹ́ wọn, mi ò láṣẹ láti sọ wípé n ò ní gba ìkéde wọn. Tẹ́ ẹ bá dẹ̀ rántí ká tó ṣe ìkéde yẹn, mo ṣàlàyé wípé ẹ tẹ́tí sí ìpolówó ọjà tí àwọn èèyàn sanwó fún. Ọdún bíi 11 nínú ọdún 14 tí mo fi ṣiṣẹ́, ọdún bíi mọ́kànlá nínú ẹ̀ la fi ṣe ti àwọn olóṣèlú nílé ilé iṣẹ́ tí mo bá ṣiṣẹ́ BCOS UPN ni wọ́n kò sẹ́ni tí ó mọ̀ pé UPN ni wọ́n. Bí àwọn MPN tí wọ́n bá mú ìpolówó ọjà wá wọ́n wá lè sọ wípé àwọn ọgbà owó tí tó jẹ́ pé yóò lé wọn láré tí wọn ò fi ní wá o, wọn ò kì í sọ pé àwọn ò gba ìpolówó ọjà. Ọlọ́run mọ̀ ṣe wá ní oníbàbà tó lóun ò ní ṣe orí burúkú, oníbàbà dé ó ní Ọlọ́run mọ̀ jẹ́ aṣọ orí burúkú o, ẹ̀wọ̀n gbígbà tí bá ń tanra rẹ̀ jẹ́ ní ẹ forí jì mí. Bóyá gbórí tiẹ̀ dé yóò ṣe, Bítọ̀ ń gbórí tiẹ̀ dé yóò ṣe. Ẹ dákun ẹ má jẹ́ à ṣe àparò tó kọ̀ tí ò wọ́rùn sí ọdẹ tó wá ń wọ́rùn sí àrò. Àrò kan ló ta níbọn. Ẹ dákun ẹ jẹ́ ká lo gbogbo. Èmi ò ní tẹ́ bá rí tí ò yé yín ẹ má béèrè, ẹ má béèrè wọn ó sì máa ṣàlàyé. Ṣùgbọ́n ẹ jẹ́ ká pa ètò pọ̀ nínú agbára wa pọ̀ láti kọlu àwọn nǹkan burúkú tí ń bá wa jà bí àwọn Fúlàní, àwọn tí ń dàlúrú lọ́tùn lósì. Ẹ dákun ẹ jẹ́ àmójútó yìí ó ṣe pàtàkì. Ọlọ́run má jẹ́ kí a fi ẹnu kọ, torí pé bí èèyàn bá fẹnu kọ kódà bó bá gbìyànjú láti fẹnu fẹ́ra bí abẹ̀bẹ̀ atẹ́gùn ò ní bá mọ́. Gbogbo àwa tí à ń ṣiṣẹ́ à ní tẹnugbó lọ bí ọwọ́. Èmi a máa sọ kìí ṣe nǹkan tí ó rìn jìnnà láti wá. A mọ̀ pé Ọ̀jẹ́lábí kì í ṣọmọ ilé kéwú, ọmọ eléégún ni. Ẹ dákun ẹ jẹ́ á múra sí ọ̀nà tó lè mú kí ìlọsíwájú kò bá bẹ́ẹ̀ bá ti mú ìbéèrè wá n ó mọ̀ dá. Ṣùgbọ́n gbogbo ìpolówó ọjà pátá tí ò bá ti búyàn, tí ò bújọba, tí ò dàlúrú, tí ò ṣe kíní, gbogbo ẹ̀ láàmú mú wá sí etí gbọ̀yìn torí owó ni kẹ̀kẹ́ ìrere. Ẹjọ́ tá a ti ń rò látàárọ̀ kì í ṣọ̀fẹ́. Àwọn èèbó onísùmù ará China ń ṣe ni wọ́n mú owó bí ẹni mú kíní ni. Mo dúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ yín tí ẹ bá rí wípé à ń ṣe nǹkan tí ẹ sì ń tọ́ka sí. A máa ṣe àtúnṣe torí ikú wa àjọkú, ààwẹ̀ wa àjọgbà. Ẹgbọ́n mi ọmọ Ògèdèngbé Agbógungbòrò, ṣé ọwọ́ ti tẹ́lẹ̀ ni àbí ọwọ́ ti sìn?
Ọwọ́ ti sìn ni o.
Ó kẹpẹ́ sà.
Mo fẹ́ sọ nípa gẹ́gẹ́ bí I'm a trained journalist. Mo dẹ̀ ṣe dáadáa nígbà tí mo gba oyè yẹn. Mo dẹ̀ practice, mo dálẹ̀ iṣẹ́ ìwé ìròyìn sílẹ̀. Àwọn nǹkan kan wà nípa ti sọ pé nínú òfin FCC wọ́n pè ní fairness doctrine, tí pé community interest ní gbogbo nǹkan tí media house máa ń wò láti gbé àkíní the listening audience ṣé is it of the public interest wọ́n máa ń wò. Somebody gbé ibi àwọn òṣèlú tó bá gba party A láyè fún ìṣẹ́jú 5, ẹ gbọ́dọ̀ gba party B láyè fún ìṣẹ́jú 5 láti present their perspective on the issue, a subject matter. Tẹ́ ẹ bá ṣe ní violation, wọ́n lè torí bẹ́ẹ̀ gbà FCC lè torí bẹ́ẹ̀ gbà license èèyàn. Torí tábà dẹ̀ lọ gẹ́gẹ́ bí kan ṣe kọ́ wa nílé ìwé, téèyàn bá fẹ́ wo to cover a story, tẹ́ bá ní different media houses fún story kan, perspective oníkálukú ètò bá wá láti sí segment of the community náà fi máa kọ angle of their story. Ẹ máa wonder pé sí event kan ní oríṣiríṣi wọn kọ lọ́nà míì. So ẹlòmíì personality lè jẹ́, ẹlòmíì ó yẹ pé statistics ló máa follow etí ò gbọ́ yìí rí tàbí other issues bẹ́yẹn. So ìdánilẹ́kọ̀ọ́ ni káfí yìí ṣe wípé ó dá balance, ó ṣe pàtàkì. Ṣùgbọ́n nǹkan tó bá lè di ará ìlú fún ẹni either for education or entertainment, education, everything is the duty of the media house to provide it. So kàn jẹ́ àlàyé tí mo fẹ́ fi kún ọ̀rọ̀ yẹn ni. Ẹ ṣeun.
Ẹ ṣeun o, mo dúpẹ́ o, àgbà ò ní tán lórílẹ̀. So a fẹ́ sọ̀rọ̀ nípa àwọn èèyàn wa tí wọ́n wà ní Brazil tẹ́lẹ̀. Kódà ọmọ ìyá mi Adéyínká Ọláìyá wọ́n ti múra sílẹ̀, ṣùgbọ́n a ní àsìkò mọ́. Ní agbára Ọlọ́run ní ọjọ́ mẹ́jọ, a gbọ́ oríṣiríṣi àrà tí àwọn Yorùbá tí wọ́n ń dá lórí ìṣẹ̀ṣe. A gbọ́ nǹkan tó ń lọ lórí ọ̀rọ̀ òṣèlú ní Brazil àti àpẹẹrẹ tí a lè lò níbẹ̀. Kò jẹ́ bí ó ṣe jẹ́ ní apá ọ̀nà bẹ̀rùn. Tó tí ò bá sí nǹkan kan tó mo fìrù yọ yín o, yèyé ọmọ Fọlábàjà yìí Ṣóyínká, ẹ kú ọjọ́ méjì ìjọ́ mẹ́ta, ẹ ṣeun adúpẹ́. Gbogbo ẹ̀yin èèyàn mo kí yín pé ẹ kú àtàárọ̀, tí a jẹ́ pé kó di kọ̀ bí ìgbà tí èèbó bá fi ẹnu ọkọ̀ sọlẹ̀. Mo dúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ yín, oníyẹn ṣe ọlọ́bẹ̀ ṣe, ẹ̀yin tí ẹ jẹ́ ẹ kú àìbínú. Ìyókù di ọjọ́ mẹ́jọ tí ẹ tún máa gbúrò mi. Mo dúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ gbogbo ẹ̀yin àgbààgbà tí ẹ ń ṣe àtìlẹ́yìn. Ẹlẹ́dàá ó máa tì yín lẹ́yìn, kò ní tì yín lójú. Ó di ọjọ́ mẹ́jọ o tí a tún pàdé, tí a mú tuntun wá. Lára ohun tí à ń rò pé a lè ṣe ní ọjọ́ mẹ́jọ, a fẹ́ wo ètò orílẹ̀-èdè Nàìjíríà, pàápàá nípa ètò ààbò. A fẹ́ wo ẹgbẹ́ tí wọ́n ń pè ní SWAP, bó ló ṣe jẹ́, ńbo ló ti ń bọ̀, ńbo ló ń lọ. A sì tún gbìyànjú láti bá àwọn àgbà Yorùbá sọ̀rọ̀. Ìyókù di ọjọ́ mẹ́jọ. Ẹni tó fúnni lówó kò fẹ́ kí ebi ó pani, ẹni tó fúnni nímọ̀ kò fẹ́ ká rìn lókun àìnímọ̀, ẹni tó fúnni lọ́mọ kò fẹ́ ká jẹ ẹ̀jẹ̀rún bí iṣu. Mo dúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ yèyé mi o, Egbinọlá Adékúnbi, àtúnwá ẹ̀dú tó kọ́ mi láṣà àmújèrè àṣà. Èrè ní gbogbo ará alágbẹ̀dẹ ibi tó bá wà ilẹ̀ rẹ̀ ni. Mo kí gbogbo ẹ̀yin èèyàn wa pátápátá. Ìyókù tún di ọjọ́ mẹ́jọ.